Good morning, everyone. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. At this time, I'd like to begin with this meeting with a very important land acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge this land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are all encouraged to reflect upon our commitments, both collectively and individually, in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually or by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the City of Toronto's Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view this hearing today may watch it on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually or who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual applicants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Please use only one device at a time, as use of additional devices can cause static noise, which may interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we suggest that you do not use the speakerphone function of your telephones. Those participating via video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled and you will be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. All other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use the share screen function or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The Committee of Adjustment staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number you originally registered with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. My name is Nadini Sankar Peralta, and I will be chairing today's meeting. And joining us on the panel are some very astute members, Member Nazila Atarodi West, Member Paul Kidd, and via virtual appearance, Member Giuseppe Bartolo, and Member Ron Hunt. Some very hardworking city staff are also present with us in front of us and behind the scenes. Let's start with our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Simon Lamb, and some very hardworking staff, Sam Mozayani, Giovanna Rizzo, Jenny Kotas, Teresa Mbunwe, Brendan Clapp, who's here with us today, Daphne Davis, as well as Irving Bridgeraj, who's here with us today. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. In terms of receiving a copy of the decision of the committee, people attending in person today who want to receive a copy of that decision of the committee on an application, you must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the TLAB or, in some limited circumstances, the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies as those terms are defined in the Planning Act are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing today are as follows. I'll call each item in order listed on the agenda, and where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they still wish to speak to the item. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I'll ask you to summarize with your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please state your name and address clearly at the beginning, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application only. The applicant or agent will proceed first and may make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals of the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to a notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals in support or opposition of the application will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to the application, we ask that you try not to repeat points that have already been made by others. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room first and then those participating via WebEx virtually. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished, and when all speakers have finished the application, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. This will mark the end of the discussion on the item. No one else speaks, and the application will then be taken into committee for decision making. Mr. Secretary, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, can I ask about the minutes that need to be confirmed?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you, we have 3 sets of minutes to be adopted this morning. The first being July 13, 2023. You were a member along with Mr. Kidd, Mr. Bartolo, and Ms. Adarodi.
Okay, members, July 13, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve this? Motion from Member Kidd. Seconded by Member Adarodi. All those in favor? July 13, 2023, minutes have passed.
Madam Chair, our second one is February 16, 2023. Yourself, Mr. Kidd, and Member Adarodi was present.
Members, can I get a motion to approve these minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion from Member Adarodi, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? That motion carries. February 16, 2023 has been approved.
Madam Chair, through you, our last set is March 23, 2023. Member Adarodi and Mr. Hunt. Member
Okay.
Hunt was present.
Perfect. And so can I get a motion to approve that? And Member Hunt is making a motion to approve that, and seconded by Member Adarodi. All those in favor? So those minutes for March 23rd, 2023 have been passed. Let's ask now, members, before we go on to any deferrals, can I understand if there's any conflicts of interest today? Anyone noting conflicts of interest? There are none from me as well, so none being noted. I will now ask you, Mr. Lamb, if there are any deferrals for the morning session.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have one deferral in the morning. It's item number 4, 1123 Leslie.
Okay, 1123. That's item number 4, everyone, if you can turn your attention to. That's the only one. So let's bring them forward. Item number 4 is number 1123 Leslie Street. I've got a Tyler Grenier here. Tyler Grenier, are you there? Okay.
Chair, I'm here virtually.
Good afternoon. So, members, this is number 1123 Leslie Street. There are 2 variances. There's no forestry or heritage concerns, no ravine or natural features protection. There is a staff report that has no concerns. They're all in favor. There is one condition that they have attached, which is policy 848, no transportation concerns. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you. My name is Tyler Grenier. I'm with Bousfields Inc., and we are at 3 Church Street in Toronto.
Okay, so there's no one to speak to this application. Can you tell us why you're requesting a deferral?
Certainly, Madam Chair. We're very pleased with city planning staff opining in their staff report that they're supportive of the application, that it meets the 4 planning tests. The challenge being the condition that they've recommended at the end. As you can see, that condition is tied to provincial approval of a city council adopted official plan amendment. So that city council adopted official plan amendment is number 653. That allowed these lands to be converted from employment to non-employment land uses, which is a positive. It does come with a site and area specific policy, as they've noted. However, as we have seen in the past, provincial review of these city council adopted official plan amendments have no timeline for review. There are currently several that are with the province that have been there for nearly 3 years.
I understand.
And if we accepted that condition today, we don't have any way to clear the condition, and nor do we have any timeline of when we'd be able to move forward with our site plan application, which requires these variances. And this staff report was only released, of course, on Friday. Our clients became aware of the condition over the long weekend. And with it being a short week, we have not had the opportunity to discuss with staff.
Okay, thank you. Just to add more clarity to this, and I've seen this before, you're requesting the deferral because you're concerned that perhaps we might deny it or put that condition on it if we do hear the application and it sort of gets approved, but then this condition gets added to it, that's your only concern?
That's correct, Madam Chair. And so we wanted the opportunity to see if we could have this condition removed through resolution with conversations with staff. It may or may not result in that, but moving forward today, should committee approve the application subject to that condition, we'll find ourselves in a position where we don't know when we can clear that condition. It could be months, it could be years. And so we don't want to run that risk.
Okay, I'll put it to the members if they want to go ahead with a deferral, but my understanding, and I could always touch base with, planning, is that it wouldn't, if it goes back to planning, you'll be in a never-ending loop where they might say, do this condition, come back, et cetera. And I do know that it takes years, and if they had no problem with it, maybe they should have just sort of left it out. Okay, let's turn it then to members if they have any questions, or if they want to go ahead with the deferral, or if they want to deny that and hear the application and move forward with a decision as well. Yeah, Member Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that that approving it as is may result in a never-ending loop. And having listened to the applicant's representative, I believe that he feels preferable to be able to go back and discuss the removal of that condition so that hopefully they are in a position to proceed. So I will make a motion to defer sine die to allow that discussion to happen.
Okay, motion from Member Hunt to defer this application sine die. Is anyone seconding that? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Your deferral request has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no more deferrals on here, let's begin with item number 1. And item number 1 is 140 Florence Avenue. 140 Florence Avenue.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi, my name is Rakim.
I'm getting to you. So Rock Kim is the agent here today. If you give me one moment. Okay, and so this is an application to obtain consent to sever a property into 2 undersized residential lots to construct 2 new dwellings. And there is a part 1 and part 2, some variances attached to each. Forestry does apply. There is a past report, a staff report of August 3rd requesting refusal to sever this property. Heritage has a February 17th report with specific conditions, and there is no ravine or natural features or TRCA concerns at this time. Because we have folks here to speak to this application, can you provide us with a brief presentation? And let's take it from there.
Okay, we were trying to satisfy with the city planner to reduce the size of the house for the coverage and then the height issues. And then there is a setback issue, so we were trying to move it to one side to make it 4 feet. But still there was issue with the lot severance. It is not allowed on this lot with the 7.5 meter. So that's why the refusal of the staff report. However, there is a lot of 7.5 meter lot frontage neighbors right across of the street, 123, 125, and has been severed. They're building it right now, and then just 2 block, two house east west side and the front 170, 157, 159. It's been already severed. They're done, and there's a lot of house has been already built, and then they're building it right now. So 7.5 meter frontage is not a. It's a main. It's a normal character of this neighborhood. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's move on then. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, which is Dr. Melinda Solomon. Dr. Solomon, are you there? If you can state your name and address for our records, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you can
Great,
state your
thank you.
name and address for the records.
Yeah, so Dr. Melinda Solomon, I live at 138 Florence Avenue, which is on the east side of these proposed houses.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on this application?
So What I'd like to say is that I've reviewed the notices and the list of variances, and obviously my house is just east of the split lot proposal. And so I will say up front, I do object or want to say that I would prefer this isn't a split lot. I recognize that this is happening in our community, and as a community, we feel the more lots like this, the infrastructure is not there for this many split lots, recognizing it has started to happen despite that. But I just wanted to put that forward initially. And then in terms of the 8 exceptions or variances requested, I'm here to basically object to 3 of the variances specifically. First of all, the proposed side yard setback for the east side by law would be 1.8 meters, and the request is for 0.91 meters. And my second objection is to the proposed height of the side exterior main walls, which the proposal has been to request 8.3 meters. And the reasons for this that I would give are, first of all, obviously this affects me being on the east side. We have a bedroom on that side with a window that clearly will change its view and its sunlight now that a bungalow is being replaced, which I accept that piece. But I think by having the building, the side yard limited, plus the height being beyond the bylaw, it will much limit any chance of sunlight going into that window and clearly limit the view. So I would ask that the bylaws be maintained and the variance is not accepted from that perspective. And my second issue is with the building being scaffolding and the actual construction, there is a hedge on the property line that has grown over a decade that I would like maintained and not damaged. And I worry that the scaffolding, I don't know how they're going to actually fit that if we go ahead with the variance that's proposed at the amount of variance. And so for those 2 reasons, I would ask that the limited side yard go back to the original bylaw, not with the variance, and that the height of the side exterior main wall be maintained with the 7.5 meters. And my second question, and this is maybe just something I am not sure of, is whether there should have been a survey done at this point, because previous constructions in this area, surveys are done and we see kind of those markers that tell us exactly where things are going to align. And I haven't seen any of that on the property line to date, but I'm not sure if that should have been done at this point or not.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's get the agent back out. Mr. Kim, if you could come back out and rebut that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, as I said before, we were trying to change the setback issue with the 1.2 meter with the planner, but still the report was refusal because of the severance. The severance was the issue. We were willing to change the setback and the size of the house, but still I'm sorry,
Anything?
still it was not really working with the satisfaction of the city planners. So yeah.
Okay, so that's his response. To anyone, any questions? Yes, Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Kim, on my site visit out there, I drove along that block, and I didn't see any what appeared to be severed lots out there. They all appeared to be the original 50-foot lot. However, you mentioned that there had been a number of severances in this area. Were any of those severances on the block that contained 140 Florence Avenue?
Same block, 84 to 90. And then right front of the house, 123, 125 is building it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Members, if there are, oh yes, Member Hunt, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the agent, have you read the August 3rd staff report from City of Toronto Planning?
Yes.
All right. What I'm having difficulty with is well, maybe I can just ask you to respond to the staff recommendation where they say the consent to sever fails to satisfy the consent criteria under section 5124 of the Planning Act, and the requested minor variance applications do not meet the 4 tests for minor variance.
Yeah, when I talked to the planner, we were trying to change, well, it was not that, it was August 3rd, so it was not that long time ago. So, but right before the date, so they were asking to change the setback of the east and the west side 1.2 meter, and the height reduced to 8 meter. It was very minor thing. So I was willing to do that, but still they're not okay with the variance because of the severance was not satisfied. So that's why I was willing to keep forwarding this committee, not deferred. There was nothing that I can change about the severance part.
Okay. You mentioned deferral. Is that something that you would consider?
No, we are not no more. It was the second defer, so we don't want to defer anymore. So probably we have to go to another level. So
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, members? All right, there being none, just a reminder, 8 variances.
One more question.
Yes. Yes, Member Bartolo,
Chair,
go
Madam
ahead,
Chair.
please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. For the applicant, you mentioned that the lot across the street, 133, is doing the same thing right now. Aren't they building a one single family home?
123.
123.
Yeah.
My mistake. And in follow up to that, and in follow up to my colleague's question there as to the merits of the severance, right? I don't think you've answered any of the actual questions on the merits of the severance, right? So I wanted to give you an opportunity one last time to, maybe provide some better context or broader context or explain the merits of the severance, because you have a negative staff report, you have negative testimony here from your neighbors, and I haven't really heard a whole lot on why this should go ahead at all. Well, you talked about the height mostly and not really about the severance at all. So if you could just go back and circle back to that and give us a stronger opinion on that, please.
Sorry, we don't want to waste of time for the waiting. We want to go forward with this minor variance.
Okay. Any other questions, members? You've heard what the agent had to say. You've heard the debutante speaking and the responses from the agent. There is no request for deferral of this application. Please note it's to sever, and parts 1 and part 2 have 8 variances. Forestry applies. Staff report is requesting refusal. No other staff conditions as well. Can I get a motion on this application? I'll give committee a moment. Okay, Member Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've read everything in the documentation. I've listened to the applicant. I've particularly focused on the staff report and their concerns about failure to satisfy Section 5124 and Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. I haven't, I really can't do anything but recommend refusal.
Right. Motion from Member Hunt to refuse this application. Can I get someone to second this motion? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Your application, Mr. King, has been unanimously refused. Okay, let's move on,
thank you.
members. Thank you. Members, let's move on to item number 2, number 7, Bradgate Road. Bradgate Road. Members, this is an application.
Glenn Rubinoff.
Yes, hi there. This is a proposal to construct a second-story addition over an existing garage and interior alteration. Please note that there are 5 variances. There is a staff report of August 3rd with 1 condition attached. Forestry does apply. There's 6 letters of support. And I'd like to welcome Glenn Rubinoff. If you can state your name and address for our record, sir.
Good morning. It's Glenn Rubinoff, Rubinoff Design Group, 18 Gloucester Lane, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rubinoff, I see there's no one here to speak to this application. I'll just ask members, do you require a presentation? There being none, Mr. Rubinoff, there's no requirement for a presentation on this application, but is there anything that you'd like to share with the members as they take this into committee for deliberation?
Nothing particular. I believe staff were satisfied with the application before it and tied to site plan. It is an existing footprint with a second story above and a small addition in front. So I unless there's any questions, I feel there's nothing much to add.
Okay, thank you. Members, with that, can I get a motion? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with 1 staff condition that mentioned in the staff report dated August 3rd, 2023, that the front yard and the side yard setback be developed accordance with the site plan drawing attached to the report and also subjected to urban forestry.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application with those conditions. Can I get someone to second it? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Your application, Mr. Rubinoff, has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, let's turn our attention to item number 3, which is number 27 Caribou Road. This is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. Members, there are 4 variances here. Forestry would apply. There are 5 letters of objection. 1 is from the Caribou Committee. There are 21 letters of support. There is a staff report of July 27th with 1 condition. Can I get the agent out here? And that is to state your name and address. Oh, it's Mr. Rubinoff again, sorry. So you don't need to state your name and address. We've got you here. But if you could provide us with a presentation on this, we've got a lot of area residents that wish to speak to this application.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, members. So this is an application for a new home, 27 Caribou Road. The variances before you, I just wanted to quickly go through them because there seems to be a fair bit of confusion as to the actual building length. If staff would mind putting up a site plan of the application, the actual building depth, if you zoom in, is actually not 19.58 meters. That is what's taken from an angle. It's based on the way in which the calculation has been done. And that is, in fact, the reason why the actual building depth is only 17.88 meters. So it's only 0.88 beyond the bylaw. But because it's taken from an angular plane, the depth or the length as determined through zoning is at 19.58, but it is not, a building is not 19.58 long. The other item that I wanted to mention to you is that item number 2, the minimum side yard setback required is 1.8 meters. The proposed east side yard setback is 1.54. The existing home on the property right now, 1.3. So we are improving the variance to the side yard from what is currently existing. Variance number 3 is regarding the stair width. It's a fairly minor variance. I won't really talk too much about that. Variance number 4 is related to lot coverage. What I want to point out to the committee is that the building itself is in compliance. The building itself is actually 33% coverage. The proposed, or the bylaw allows for 35% coverage. What is pushing the envelope in terms of lot coverage is related to the canopy. So there's a covered porch in the back, and there's a covered canopy above in the front. Those combined, and it's indicated in the variance here, if you read through it, that 6.38% of the platform canopy coverage is related to porches covers. Like, it's not related to the building. So the building is actually smaller than the bylaw permits. It's at 33%, where 35% is permitted. Those are the only variances before us today. And city planning has reviewed this file. They also identify that the actual building length is 17.88 meters. The other thing is they recommend that that it's substantially in accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawing and the attachments that were before in the staff report, which we are fine with. So I know there's a number of speakers who are concerned about this application, but you should also know that there was additional letters of support provided past the deadline. Just so you understand, there was we added another 21 letters over the weekend prior to post the date permitted to submit them. But my clients have made a tremendous effort to speak to neighbors, including those who were opposed, to really reach out and explain the variances, and that it doesn't, sometimes the notices, the variances listed, the items listed sound worse than they actually are, and this is a case like that. So I'll finish up here with that and look forward if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubinoff. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Rubinoff? Okay, there being none, we have a pretty active number of participants today, and I'm not sure if anyone in the gallery is actually wishing to speak to this application. If you are, please stand up so I'll make sure that you are heard first. All right, and any further applications that you are here for and wishing to speak to, I'll also ask that you raise your hand or stand up to let me know that you're willing to speak to this application and you're in-house today. Okay, so let's move on to the first speaking member, and I'll ask, because we've got 8 speakers, please, if the speakers online do not repeat points that have already been heard. It would really help us out with timing, and repeating points wouldn't add value to the case. The members are pretty acute at listening to everyone's story and picking out what's necessary and what's repetitive. So stick to things that we haven't heard already. So let's start with Susan Wood. Susan Wood, Miss Wood, are you there?
Yes,
Yes,
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you can state your name and address for the record, please, and begin.
I'm Susan Wood at 31 Caribou Road. Good morning, Chairperson and members of the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you for your time today. I'm the next door neighbor to the west of the applicants, and I greatly oppose the application for this proposed dwelling at 27 Caribou Road. I also sent a letter of objection, which the Committee of Adjustment should have read. I'm deeply disturbed by the fact the applicants went door to door and got signatures of support from other homeowners in our community, including builders of other monster homes in the area, by just informing them they plan to build a new dwelling and got their signatures along with a one-liner stating they supported the applicant's dwelling and the applicants collected them and then forwarded to the COA. Whereas the people submitting letters of objection had to do research and email personal letters to the COA as to why they object to the proposed dwelling. This is completely unfair. We have been told in the past by the COA that we could not get objection petition letters like the applicants were allowed to submit. I too could have followed the applicant's process and achieved an even better outcome by way of objection signatures against this dwelling. But as per usual, the applicants, who are repeated house flippers, obviously know how to manipulate the system when I see COA has uploaded the extra letters of support issued on August the 8th. My letter from COA stated that all written submissions to make our views known must be issued no later than 4:30 p.m. on August the 2nd, and registration for the hearing must be submitted by August the 8th. Nowhere does it say that more submissions of support or objection will be accepted after the August 2nd deadline. I, along with others who have submitted letters of objection or those attending this hearing today, have followed the rules, whereas the applicants have not. The letters of support issued after August the 2nd should not be allowed, accepted, or considered by COA. It appears we are continually at a disadvantage and not being treated fairly compared to the applicants' submissions, especially with the little time allotted by COA of 5 days for the surrounding neighbors to obtain objection letters. Going forward, variances 1 and 4 are not minor, but major variances, and there has never been an application approved with a 2-story length greater than 19.2 meters, nor an approval with equal or greater lot coverage. Therefore, the proposed building length and lot coverage does not maintain the intent of the building bylaw. 39.38% lot coverage is excessive when 35% is the maximum permitted. COA even noted the building coverage and platform canopy coverage are not permitted encroachments. My neighbor at 85 Kimbark's view across the whole back of her lot will now consist of a brick wall. I will be strongly impacted by this proposed 2-story high, extremely long brick building, as it will not only impede my views, which I've enjoyed over the past 16 years of beautiful, majestic trees, but this dwelling will greatly reduce the sun I appreciate in my yard, which consists of a pool surrounded by extensive perennial gardens. I will definitely lose much of my garden due to the significant sun loss in my yard due to this long, high brick wall, which will now be my view. My views have already previously been desecrated by the applicants when they removed 2 majestic maple trees, which they maintained were not for construction, but in preparation for a pool. However, here we are a year later, and obviously the removal of these beautiful trees, which once gave the ambience of the country and the city, was obviously for construction, as they would have gotten in the way of this new dwelling, or the applicants haven't included in their application the pool and the cabana they said they would be constructing, because that would mean an even greater lot coverage other than what was stated in their application. In closing, please recognize the application should be opposed as these major variances fail to meet the criteria specified in Section 45.1 of the Ontario Planning Act, plus not only ruin my views,
I'll
but the
ask you
character
to
of the
please
surrounding homes
summarize. Please
on my
summarize.
block. For the sake of expediency and to reduce repetition where other speakers will be making the same points as me, I will pass to the next speaker. Again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wood. Anyone questions for Ms. Wood? There being none, let's move on to the next speakers. That's a Kendrin Hutt and a Dean Brown. If one of you would like to speak, we can permit that. Who's on the line?
Yes, it's Kendrin Hutt speaking.
Right, thank you. If you could state your name and address for the record, and please go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Kendron Hutt, 50 Otter Crescent. And good morning, everyone. Good morning to the Committee of Adjustment. I just wanted to state that we too oppose the application for the proposed new dwelling at 27 Caribou. The agent and the owners are requesting 4 variances to the zoning bylaw, and we don't consider these issues to be minor by any means. We feel they are too large to be considered inconsequential, and I will defer to the previous speaker and future speakers' comments just so as to not be repetitious. What I did want to state is, you know, as residents who have lived in this neighborhood for 24 years, it is both disappointing and deeply concerning that, you know, developers are allowed to build these unreasonably massive homes that really profoundly change the character and the essence of this neighborhood. And from our point of view, it seems that there is little consideration that's given really to the longstanding residents and taxpayers in this neighborhood. Whereas it feels like sometimes officials are bending over backwards to accommodate developers and their requests for variances to the zoning bylaws. And it kind of leaves us scratching our heads, you know, who is in cooperation with whom? We don't feel that applicants and developers should be given special accommodation, and certainly not at the expense of the current homeowners in the neighborhood. What is often the case is that these homes are built by developers, serial flippers, and those in associated professions who really know how to work the system. Rarely do they stay and live in the houses that they've built over the long term. They merely reside in the house long enough to avoid the capital gains tax. They sell the house, they stuff their pockets, and then move on to repeat what we feel are offenses in another neighborhood. And what happens is, unfortunately, it's the long-term residents who are the ones that suffer the consequences and have to live with these monstrosities in their beloved neighborhoods. So we are opposed to the application, and we sincerely hope that you will uphold the bylaws to protect the current residents who live in this neighborhood and their right to preserve and defend the value, privacy, and enjoyment of their homes. Allowing this application to pass will only continue to embolden developers to build even larger homes without the consideration of those who actually live in the neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for not repeating points already made. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Hutt? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker noted, and that's Elise Hertz. Elise Hertz. Ms. Hertz, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, you're unmuted. If you can state your name and address and continue.
My name is Elise Hertz. I live at 81 Kimbark Boulevard. I just have to read the letter that I prepared. Sorry if there's any repetitiveness, but I can't speak off the cuff. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in the hearing process for this application. I wish to convey my strong objections to the proposal on the basis that variances 1 and 4 are not minor. I live on Kimbark, and my backyard sides onto the rear yard of this subject property. I have owned and been a resident in the neighborhood for over 25 years and have a passion for the country and the city neighborhood with its character homes and mature trees. This homeowner has already made a significant change to the rear yard of this property by removing several mature trees, which have negatively impacted the surrounding neighbors. I have no objection to new builds or renovations or expansions in keeping with the reasonable parameters for the infill construction prescribed by the city zoning bylaws and established in the official plan. However, the variances in this case, length and coverage and rear deck and canopy coverage are not minor. Their cumulative impact is not consistent with the prevailing character of the homes in the immediate Otter Creek neighborhood, is excessive for a lot of this size, and would have significant negative impact to the surrounding neighbors and to the street. If the coverage of 39.38% were to be granted, it would be the highest coverage approved in this neighborhood. This lot is 18.64 meters and 41.6 meters by 41.6 meters, which is a substantial size and should not require a 4.38% coverage variance. The applicant's architect has used 83 Kimbark as a comparable with 38.1% coverage granted. But that variance was approved on condition that the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and south side elevation drawings. Those drawings showed a gym beneath the rear deck. Also, it is worth noting that the total lot area for 83 Kimbark is 588.3 square meters, and the total lot area for this property is 770 square meters. The permitted maximum building length is 17 meters, and the proposed building length is 19.58 meters. The proposed walls are 2 stories high for the entirety of this length. This will cause severe privacy and overlook issues for the surrounding neighbors. And the coverage, as we mentioned, is 35% allowed, 39.38% requested. This lot is one of the widest lots in the area and should not require the largest coverage. The homeowner has indicated that it is their intention to put in a pool and a cabana. Also on the site plan, you see that the existing shed is to be removed. They will need to replace this shed as it contains all their garden equipment and children's outdoor equipment. This will only contribute to additional coverage, which will put them over 40%. So will they need to come back to committee for another coverage variance when they erect this new shed? In comparing previous decisions, one must consider the context of those decisions. When applications are approved conditional on the building being developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings, it is not appropriate to use the numerical variance approval alone as a precedent without showing the attached drawings. In summary, the combined variances would operate together to exert a severe adverse impact on the adjacent neighbors' properties. As a result of the minor variances, if all were approved, I don't believe it would meet the 4 tests in section 45(1) of the official plan. The act requires a determination that each individual variance as well as cumulative impact satisfies all the 4 tests. I respectfully submit that the request and required variances individually and cumulatively fail to satisfy the 4 tests, and I accordingly request that the committee refuse this development application. However, if the committee sees fit to
I'll
grant
ask you
these
to please summarize.
I would request that they would be granted under the condition that it is developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and the side elevation drawing submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker, Dominique Von Russell. Mr. Russell, if you can state your name and address and try not to repeat points already made, and continue.
Hi, my name's Dominique Von Russell. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much for hearing me. Actually, there's not much I can say.
Can you
that
just state
hasn't
your
been
address,
covered.
please?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. 85 Kimbach Boulevard. I am the house that is directly adjacent to the my back onto the new dwelling. So my view from my backyard will be the entire length of my backyard. Right now, I get a tiny section of the existing house, about a third of my lot. But in accordance with what they're proposing, it will now be the entire length of my backyard, which the shadow effect will be extreme. I won't get no sun in my backyard at all. And at present, there is a hedge that is a 20-foot hedge that's grown for the last, 20 odd years. That is on their side of the fence. When that disappears, which will have to happen when they start constructing, I will now not be looking at any greenery whatsoever. I'll be looking at literally a brick wall. That is not the type of neighborhood that I feel is what we have. We have a little pocket, a gem in in our city that is very rare, and we would like to maintain the integrity of that neighborhood by keeping the homes in accordance with what they have been approved, and the variances are absolutely. I think the bylaws are there for a reason, and that is to keep the integrity of the neighborhoods. And when you get such extreme variance requests, it severely compromises the integrity of the neighborhood. And I am strongly opposed to this new construction. So I wish I could say something other than what the prior speakers have said. I agree with absolutely everything that they have mentioned. The if the house was a single story, the length of it, that's part of the lot coverage. If they extend it the length that they want, but have it as a single story, it wouldn't be as much shadow. But right now, 2 stories, the entire length of the property, it's a monster. It's a monster home that I feel is not in keeping with the integrity of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you so much, and you made some good points there. Members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker. We've got a Douglas McWhirter. Douglas McWhirter, if you can state your name and address for the record, and please continue.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Douglas McWhirter. We live at 79 Otter Crescent, and we have lived at this intersection of Otter Crescent and CARIBOU for over 54 years. During this time, we've watched the community evolve and new houses being built, of course. But thanks to the oversight of the Committee of Adjustment, these houses have consistently adhered to the relevant bylaws. And any adjustments that have been made have mostly been setbacks. These are respecting the footprints of legacy homes that have been in these properties that were built in earlier times. We're being asked to consider that a 5 percentage point increase in coverage from 35% allowed to nearly 40% is to be considered minor. Now, I recognize that minor is a subjective term, but I'm proposing that we should look at this for what it really is. 5 percentage points on top of 35 is a 15% increase in coverage. If we were invited to a concert or a ball game and informed that there was a 15% probability that would be infected with COVID, I think most of us would decline that invitation. My point is that a 15% increase in coverage is not and should not be considered a minor variance. The committee is being asked to make an irreversible decision and to create a new precedent. This committee has a long and greatly appreciated history of managing applications within the relevant bylaws, and I respectfully request that they continue this practice of adherence and reject this application based on this not being a minor variance to increase this coverage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's move on then to the next speaker, and that's Thomas Rithazi. Thomas Rithazi, if you can state your name, address, and
Hi, good morning. My name is Thomas Rithazi. I live at 95 Kimbark Boulevard. I'll speak somewhat briefly. Most of what I wanted to say was in the letter of opposition I wrote. It has already been called out by a few others on this call. So my house is directly across the street from 27 CARIBOU. The variances being requested are not small. I believe 3 out of the 4 of them are 13, 14, 15% outside of what is allowed. And I think more importantly, these variances have a very direct, very negative impact on the immediate neighbors. And the variances are really good for only one party, and that party are the current residents at 27 CARIBOU. I think as was articulated quite clearly in a presentation shared in one of the opposition letters by Eli Aaron, as of today, there are no houses in the neighborhood that have the same size house relative to their property size as the one in this application. This is a very old neighborhoods. And within the next 6 months, there will be another committee of adjustment hearing to talk about a house around the corner that wants to do the same thing. Except this time, should this application be accepted, they'll be able to point to 27 Caribou and say that they just want to do the same thing that was previously allowed. I think everyone on this call puts an extremely high value on privacy, and allowing these variances to go through limits the privacy of the neighbors at the sole benefit of the residents at 27 Caribou. I just want to put this into context a little bit. The property that we're talking about today is massive. This is an over 60-foot wide lot, 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, easily worth over $3 million. I can't imagine it's that difficult to build a house that is big enough for the owners while also sticking to the guidelines that were created specifically to protect neighborhoods from being overbuilt. I would also add that a signature is not the same thing as a letter of support. We have no way of knowing if the signees knew what they were signing. And I'd also point out that the applicants got multiple signatures from people within the same household to try and boost the statistics in favor of the request that they put in front of you today. So I feel like they should be heavily discounted. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions? There being none, let's move on to Mary Pat Tillman. Mary Pat Tillman, if you can state your name and address, and please continue. You've been unmuted.
Through you, Madam Chair, we're currently trying to get a hold of Mary Pat.
Can we move on to Eli Aaron? Eli Aaron, if you're there, and you can just unmute yourself and state your name, address, and continue, please.
Can the staff please bring up my presentation? My name is Eli Aaron. I live at 25 Edgecombe Avenue. I'm qualified to give expert evidence in the area of land use planning. So in my presentation, which you'll see in a minute, in the on this block, in the middle of this block, there are 4 lots. Of those 4 lots, there are 0 properties with a length greater than 17 meters. There are 0 properties with a lot coverage of more than 34%, and there are 0 properties with both combined. Within the neighborhood as a whole, which has about 200 properties, there are 0 committee approvals with a 2-story length greater than 19.2 meters, and there are 0 approvals with equal or greater lot coverage, and there are 0 approvals with both combined. In my opinion, the proposal does not respect and reinforce the prevailing character of this block or neighborhood. The house is by far, as proposed, the longest on the block, and it exceeds the length at a height of 2 stories of every single approval in the entire neighborhood. The lot coverage would exceed the lot coverage of every approval in the entire neighborhood. How can that be prevailing? Prevailing is the most commonly occurring. If it doesn't exist anywhere in the neighborhood, how could it be the most commonly occurring? It does, in my opinion, not respect the intent of the zoning bylaw. The length, particularly given that it's at a height of 2 stories, a 19.58 meter length, does not respect the intent of the bylaw, and the lot coverage is significantly in excess of what's permitted. I know we've heard from the applicant that these are, technicalities or whatever. The fact is, the bylaw, the way that it's written, the definition of building length is that it must be measured along the lot center line. And if you look at the site plan, it has been correctly measured along the lot center line from the front wall to the back wall. And the result is that the entire 2-story dwelling is 19.58 meters. So the applicant can say it's really only 17.8, Well, that's not the way that the bylaw tells us to measure, the building length. The real building length is 19.58 meters. The variances are not minor in nature, as I've sort of discussed already, and they're not desirable because they're creating an adverse impact to adjacent properties, and it's not desirable to have one property with much higher lot coverage and a much greater building length than the others. So I'll just finish by saying that the variances don't maintain the intent of the official plan, don't maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw. They're not minor and they're not desirable. And just before I stop talking, I would appreciate if you could move to the applicant's supporting material. There's just a few things I wanted to point to there. On the second page, the map, if you could zoom into that map, please. That's perfect. So on the left, there are two properties referenced, 116 and 118 Caribou Road. Neither of those properties are within the neighborhood. TLAB has accepted evidence that the neighborhood ends on the west side of Otter Crescent, and we can see those properties are way outside of the neighborhood. They're almost half a kilometer away. So they're completely irrelevant. 109 Kimbark Boulevard, the above grade length is only about 17 meters, and there's no lot coverage variance for that house. 100 Kimbark Boulevard, that's a much, much smaller lot. It's only about 30 feet wide, as opposed to this lot, which is 60 feet wide, and it has no length variance. 83 Kimbark has been covered by my neighbor, Elise. That additional length beyond 17 meters was for excavation underneath a rear deck. The above grade length of the side walls of 83 Kimbark are only about 17 meters. 24 Edgecombe, again, much bigger lot. There's no lot coverage variance, and the length includes excavation underneath
I'll
a
please
rear
ask
deck.
you to summarize.
Yeah. So in summary, there are 0 comparable houses in the neighborhood that have been approved. There are 0 comparable houses on the immediate context block. This house threatens to create a terrible precedent for the neighborhood, and it significantly impacts adjacent neighbors in a negative way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And we do have your presentation. App technicians, do we have Mary Tillman on the line? No? And you've tried? Okay, so they've tried to reach her. Unfortunately, she's not there. So we've heard the gamut of it. No one is in the audience wishing to speak to this application. So what I'll do is I'll get Mr. Rubinoff, the agent, back out here. And you've heard all of the points that the agents have, the members have stated. Before I do that, were there any questions for the last speaker as well? I want to make sure I'm following proper protocol here. None there. So, Mr. Rubinoff, if you can quickly summarize your rebuttal.
Yes, thank you. So a lot of what was brought up was addressed early on with my comments with regards to how length is taken. It's actually it's a technical variance for building length because of the nature of the way in which they measure it is based on the side yard perpendicular to the side lot lines, which are skewed. And because they're skewed, it's not taken like a straight front to back length. The actual length of the building, as mentioned previously, is at 17.88 meters, 0.88 beyond the permitted. I should point out that the rear setback, because there's always concern about impacts, the rear yard neighbors mentioned the impacts. We're 63'4" or 19.3 meters from the building to the rear lot line. I also want to just respond to a couple of points that were made that regarding the hedge and sheds and whatnot. My clients are keeping the hedge. They're not planning to build a shed or cabana. They're not developers. They're moving in to live there. They're not serial house flippers. And it's unfortunate that these comments that people felt that to bring this forward as and whatever you want to call it, dehumanizing them. They're actually quite good neighbors to the neighborhood. Anyways, my final point is really that the coverage, as I mentioned earlier, is at 33% for the house. Whether we didn't dig out the basement and put an extended a basement under the deck, it's just simply for the roof above. And that's what's creating the coverage variance. But the house itself is under the 35% requirement. The side yard setback I mentioned to you touches at 1.54 at the back corner, but it's actually 1.67 at the other 2 points. So it's really just touch points. For the majority of that side, it is a compliance. We're just really talking about points because of the skewed lot and trying to orient the house directly. Had the house been tilted, which would not, in my mind, be appropriate, because we want to be in line as 25 is. If the house had been tilted, that would probably eliminate some of the technical length variance. But this is very much a reasonable response to the bylaw in this area, and city planning has asked for conditions related to tying into plans. And I think that with their, with the 31 letters of support that came in, which are as legitimate as anyone else's letters of support or of opposition that came in, I feel that this application is minor in nature and should be approved. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubinoff. Members, do you have any questions? Okay. Yes, Member Hunt, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Mr. Rubinoff, could you comment on the fourth variance you're asking with the notation that the coverage includes 33% of the building coverage and 6.38% of platform canopy coverage that are not permitted encroachments?
Right. So you are permitted to have a deck, a covered deck in the front and in the back. But because it extends beyond I think it's 8 feet, that area suddenly becomes part of the coverage. So we are permitted to have a covered deck. It's really just because it's a larger deck in the back. And the deck is not a variance. It's simply for the cover over the deck. Because the roof cover over the deck extends beyond it, the entire area of it becomes counted as lot coverage. And that covers the rear, the side, and the front encroachments, because anything beyond the permitted is considered coverage.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Any other questions, members? Okay. There being none, you've heard quite a lot from the surrounding neighbors, but in addition, you would have seen on file quite a large number of letters of support in addition. Forestry does apply. There are numbers of letters of objection, about 5 of them also on file, but which those persons have already spoken to this. And then the staff report has just one condition. That being said, I'll allow you a moment to take this into committee. And when you're ready, a motion, please. Motion from Member Atarodi.
Through you, Madam Chair, I was listening to all the applicant, to the neighbors, and also I studied the staff report, and I believe that these 4 variances are minor, and with the explanation we got from the agent, regarding the lengths of the building. This is a technical variance, variance number 2, east side yard setback. The new proposal is actually improve the situation from 1.3 meter to 1.54 meters, which is a plus. Therefore, and also explanation that the agent provide for the variance number 4 for the lot coverage. Therefore, I believe that this is minor and would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with only one condition that staff requested on the report dated July 27, 2023, that the condition is that the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings submitted to the City of Toronto, attachment number 1, 2, and 3, and also subjected to urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Attarodi, with a motion to approve this application with those conditions, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? And opposed? Member Hunt dissenting. Okay, your application, Mr. Rubinoff, has been approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, if we could turn our attention to item number 5. Item number 5 is 413 Whitmore Avenue. And 413 Whitmore Avenue is an application to construct a new 3-story duplex dwelling. And please note, members, that there's no one here to speak to this application. There are 7 variances and forestry does apply. There is a staff report where 3 variances are being requested to be refused. Variance 3 and 7, and a condition if approved. There is 1 letter of objection, and there's a previous decision and TLAB decision on file. I'd like to call out Nilafar Baradaran. Are you there? If you can state your name and address for the records, please. Nilufar?
I am here.
Yes, hi there. If you can state your name and
Hi.
address for the record.
My name is Nilufar Barodaran. Address is 7167 Young Street, Unit 609, Thornhill.
Thank you. I understand that you would like to share the time with the owner of the property, Majid Najad? You're here. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So if you could probably begin, and between the two of you, you do have 5 minutes and your time is counting. So go ahead.
Dear committee members, we are seeing 7 minor variances approval. I believe they do not have any adverse impact in the neighborhood. Variance number 1 is lot frontage is 7.65, must be 8 meter for a duplex house. We are going to have extra unit for rent. Now, variance number 2 is related to landscape area must be minimum 50%. We provided 23.85%. The reason is we provided 2 car parking in the driveway in the front yard. By doing this, we prevent park in the existing one-way narrow street. The other variance number 3 also related, minimum 75% landscape, soft landscaping required. In the zoning notice mentioned that we provided 5.29%, but we have got some solutions for improving this variance. The solution number 1 is I have increased from 2.26 square meter to 4.35 square meter to reach 20%. For redesigning this as front yard, soft landscaping, I added a little garden in the front for tree planting. The solution number 2 is using permeable pavers, water runoff with 40% grass between openings. In my estimation, it comes to even more than 80% now. We had a similar situation in other house last year, 78 Bowie Avenue. It was accepted by the planner at that time, and even they remove our variances by this solution. Variance number 4 is minimum west side yard setback is 0.41 meter for us. Here, just keep the existing setback. And variance number 5 is parking space in front. I think we already discussed. Variance number 6 is FSI must be 80%. We have 92%. We have added a third bedroom in the third floor, so that's why the increase. I don't think it is very much. And the variance number 7, minimum east side yard setback in the zoning notice mentioned must be 1.8 meter, but we provided 0.91 meter. Actually, I need to mention that this zoning prepared more than a month ago. So, and this was old bylaw, and now the amendment saying we need to have only 1.2 meter. So it looks that now our request for 0.9 meter is more reasonable.
Okay, I'll ask you to stop there, and so that we can share the time with the owner who is waiting to speak as well.
Sure.
Mr. Najad, if you could state your name and address for the record, please. If you can put on the mic, I think there's a little button. Are you getting it? Can I ask you to pause for 1 minute, and I'll give you the extra time. But members, are you hearing Mr. Najad speak online? So they're not. So perhaps if we can get the mic on, and I'll have him restart.
Okay. No?
There
It's good?
you go.
Okay.
Go ahead. So if you could state your name and address again
Okay.
for the record, and go ahead.
Yeah, this is Majid Najad. I am here on behalf of our owner. I appreciate Madam Chair and the members taking the time. In addition to the designer explanation, I am here to ask you please totally disregard the forestry letters July 27th and August 3rd. The thing is, the tree they are talking about wasn't there, wasn't even around when we first submitted our application for committee. Now, if we would have to follow their recommendation and those forestry conditions, it's going to mess up the project big time. It honestly feels unfair to deal with the problem that wasn't there when we started the committee process. I just want to ask you, as members of the committee, why should we have to go through all this trouble that we didn't cause? So now we are stuck dealing with the consequences, and why? It doesn't much sense. Another matter, our choice of turf stone, I insist turf stone for the driveway as permeable material was deliberately. According to the data sheet, it provides 40% open space along with the additional green spaces we have already allocated for the tree in front of the yard. We have taken all necessary measures to meet the required codes and regulation. It is odd why the city still has objection for green percentage. Okay, I am
ask you
hoping
to
you will take.
summarize now, please. Yeah.
Okay, I am hoping you take another look at this and really think it through. Your understanding and consideration mean a lot. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of either the agent or the owner who's here today? Yes, let's start first with Member Atarodi.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to get some clarification regarding the variance number 3 when the agent explained or the architect explained when it's get to the number 3, she mentioned that by increasing some square footage of the landscape. So, and in one explanation, he said that now the front yard soft landscaping is 20%, and then later explained that they would using permeable pavers, so they achieved to 80%. So I would like to just get clarification that if they are modifying variance number 3, if that's so, please, what's the number? And also regarding variance number 7, that the first agent explained that due to the new zoning bylaw and regulation, the requirement is 1.2 meter, and what we have the bylaw 2013, which is new. So we would like to get some clarification on the variance number 7 as well, to just clarify.
Okay, I'll ask the agent to come back on, and if you can respond to Member Atarodi's concerns.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes,
Do you hear me?
but you are
Yeah, okay.
you are breaking up, so
Yeah.
perhaps if you can stop, there's movement
Okay.
in the background, stay still, and
Sure.
you can, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, for variance number 3, yes, I increased some green space in the front. I added a little garden, so improve it from 5.29% to 20%. This is without considering permeable pavers. Because at that time, planner doesn't count on permeable paver, so I try to increase only the garden. So after that, I also have other solution using permeable pavers to improve more, to go in actually up to 80%. But I'm not sure if the planner convinced for that. But we already had this project for 78 Bowie Avenue. The other planner convinced and even removed our variance because it was more than 75%. Because I wasn't sure I mentioned both of them. About variance number 7, the amendment came, I think, in June for this new bylaw. Some amendment came in. The requirement of side setback decreased, and for duplex house decreased from 1.8 to 1.2. Not sure, is that enough explanation, or I need to tell something more?
No, thank you very much for explanation. Just one more last question for regarding variance number 3. If you improve the situation to 80%, so that means that you're eliminating that variance? Because the requirement is 75. If you reach out to 80%, means
yeah. I think it's on you that if accept this my explanation about this permeable material, because at that time that project planner approved this, so they removed it already before.
So let's just confirm variance number 3 has been removed.
Okay.
No, I'm asking, is that what you're saying? Variance number.
It depends if you are approving our solution for permeable paver or not. So that's why I think it's better not removed. If you are satisfied with 20%, it's okay to give.
Okay, so what I'm going to expedite this right now. Sorry, one person at a time to speak. So you're saying that you're not making any changes. Ms. Atarodi, do you have anything further?
Well, as far as I've heard, the agent wants to change it to 30%. The last thing she mentioned, just a clarification. I need a clarification.
20.
Thank you.
Just very quick question. 20% there and 40% when we use turf stone is added to that one. The solution is that 20% already in place with turf stone with 40% open space between that. It's going above the 80%.
Thank you.
So if it does go above 80%, variance number 3 is eliminated. Right?
Yeah, we requested that one. We request to remove the, what's the variance, number 3.
Number
Two.
3. Okay.
Number
so
3 or 2, I don't know because I don't have the
It's
number
number
3.
3.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so variance number 3 has been removed. Members note that. Member Bartolo, I'm getting to you. You have a question.
I did have a question. I was just looking at it here, and I was going to ask what they're going to change that variance to. However, that's been eliminated, so I'm good.
Okay. That being said, any other questions? No more questions? You've noted variance number 3 has been removed. You have an application that did have 7 variances. There's now 6. Forestry does apply. You saw the previous decisions. There's a staff report where they were asking for variance number 3 to be refused. It's been removed. They talked about variance number 7 as well. There is one condition if approved. There was one letter of objection. No one else here to speak to this application. Oh, there is somebody. Okay, let's see. I don't have you listed on here, but that's not a problem. Members, sorry about that. Let's hear from an area resident who has, who is here. Were you registered? Yeah. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, please. Please start the timer. If you could start the timer.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Kevin Masters, and I reside at 419 Whitmore Avenue, the property directly to the west of the proposed development. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. While my family and I support redevelopment and affordable housing options, we feel that the proposal is not in line with local zoning and will cause significant impact on the neighboring properties. Whitmore Avenue and the surrounding residential streets are a mix of single-family and duplex homes, predominantly with rear garages and private or shared driveways. I have lived in my home for 22 years, and in 2018, built upwards from a bungalow to 2.5-story home. The first page is a dimensionally accurate overhead view created in Chief Architect software based on the applicant's designs. The applicant's proposal is in the middle. My 2.5-story home with a 78% FSI is on the bottom, and on the top is the east side bungalow, both with rear garages. As you can see, the application for a 92% FSI consumes the majority of the neighboring backyards. Next page. While the applicant references being below the 1.07 FSI imposed by the October 2022 TLAB decision and order, this may be a misunderstanding. The examiner's reassessment of previous plans included the above-ground basement and excluded the integral garage. Excluding the basement, the net FSI was 0.8. Assessing the proposed application in the same manner of including the basement would result in an FSI of 1.3. This is why its massing appears significantly larger than my home of 0.78. The result is over 63% of my available rear yard will be obstructed by a building wall exceeding 24 feet high. Next slide. This is the impact to the easterly neighbor. Next one. This view illustrates the shadowing that occurs at 9 a.m. on June 1st. So summer, blocking sunlight to our rear windows and completely shadowing our rear deck. Next slide. Contrary to the TLAB's decision limiting the building length to 17 meters, if we overlay the applicant's floor space of each floor, the actual building is 18.5 meters. Next slide. The proposed development is listed and zoned as a duplex. However, it appears to contain 3 dwelling units, 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, 3 laundry facilities, and 3 private. Sorry, is that okay? Okay, I prefer
we've
that.
got the presentation, so go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody is seeing
Yeah.
it. So, all right, and then on the next slide, we'll take a look at each floor. So this is the 2-bedroom first floor unit, the front entrance. You can go to the next one. This is the next 2 pages are a 3-bedroom second unit on the 2nd and 3rd floors. So you can do this one and the next slide. And then the next slide again. And this is the basement unit, which appears to have 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, bath, and a laundry with a private entrance. There's a typo, that bathroom should be 1. In conclusion, we feel that the application does not meet the city's official plan or zoning regulations. The variances requested are not minor, particularly in variance 6, for an FSI of 92% will adversely affect the enjoyment of our property and cause significant shadowing. We would strongly support a reduced front yard setback to bring the building in line with neighboring properties, and would also welcome a readjustment of the massing to reduce the rear yard impact. We're willing to work with the applicant to arrive at a mutually agreeable design. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, if no questions, I would like to bring the agent back online to respond to the concerns raised by this person who is in here in chambers. And if you can stop moving, your microphone is rubbing on something, and if you can respond.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I don't think that the things the neighbor said about the length is correct, because we have a 17-meter length. And also we have just a bay window on the front and in the back. So he counted all this. We already had zoning review on this, and I don't think we have any issue with other zoning bylaws. And they already estimated our FSI and approved for 92%, because the basement is not counted. And I just want to mention that my client want to live in the first floor, and the basement is connected to the first floor, and to have added some more space, he had 2 adult children, and wanted to rent the second floor to a family. They need 3 bedrooms. So I think completely is a standard unit for family. I don't have anything more to explain. I'm not sure if you have any special question you can ask. I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? There being none, I won't reiterate what we've gone through, so can I get a motion, please? Okay. Okay, Member Bartolo, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I've listened to everything carefully here and considered the plans. Given the applicant's removal of variance number 3 and the narrow nature of the lot, it is difficult to provide multiple dwellings within those narrow lots without seeking some sort of variances. Therefore, I will put forward an application to I will put forward a motion to approve this application subject to the following revisions: that variance number 3 be deleted, and not make it subject to the urban forestry. That tree that's been planted is very new, and the project would not be possible with the restrictions of that. So that is my motion.
Okay, and did you say forestry? I just wanted to make sure.
No.
You didn't say forestry.
I purposely left that out.
Sorry, I understood. Motion to approve by Member Bartolo to approve this with those conditions, seconded by, sorry.
Madam Chair, if I could, Mr. Bartolo, would you consider including the planning staff condition on that proposal?
There is one.
Which condition is that?
The west yard setback be constructed according to the site plan.
No problem, yes.
Okay.
As attachment 1 to the planning staff report.
Thank you.
No issues with that.
So as amended, motion amended, and can I get a seconder for that? Motion approved seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? Member Hunt and Member Attarodi dissenting, and I'll go with the motion from Member Bartolo. So your application has been approved with those conditions. Thank you. No forestry. Okay, so members, please let me know if you need a break at all, and I'm looking at city staff, etc. But if not, we'll move on to item number 6 for now, and we could do a break after that or after item number 7, which would take us to the halfway point. But let's move on. Item number 6 is number 81 Winston Park Boulevard. Members, this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with 2 basement apartment units and a garden rear suite. There are 2 variances. There are forestry conditions. There is 1 letter of support. Here I have no one to speak to this application, unless there's someone in the audience. All right. I don't have anyone noted, so let's bring out Glenn Rubinoff again. Mr. Rubinoff?
Yes, good morning. It's Glenn Rubinoff, Rubinoff Design Group, 18 Gloucester Lane.
All right. Yep. Members, do you require a presentation for this application? Members? Nope, no presentation required. Mr. Rubinoff, do you have anything that you'd like to share before we make any final decisions?
Sure. Just a minor point that the requested variance for side yard setback is related only to the garage portion of the house. The rest of it is within compliance. So it's just for a side yard setback on the left-hand side there by the garage. That portion is the only portion that requested, and the other item is quite minor, just a 4-inch difference in wall height. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, if you note that. If there are no other questions of Mr. Rubinoff, can I get a motion? Yeah. Motion from Member Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I believe this is fairly straightforward. There were no department comments or concerns, so I would move approval of this application with the condition of urban forestry standard requirements.
Okay, motion to approve this application with forestry conditions from Member Hunt. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Your application, Mr. Rubinoff, has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
How about we just do this one? Because I see the agent is here. Let's get through this one, and then we take a break after number 7. So let's bring out number 16, Restwell Crescent. Members, Restwell Crescent is an application to construct a new dwelling. Members, please note that with this application, there is someone to speak to it. There are 11 variances. There are forestry conditions, and the staff report does ask that there be modifications to variances number 6 and 7, or we might have to refuse them. We bring out a Hamid Behesht or representative. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Arjang Behesht from Homeland at 49 Wycliffe Crescent. And may I just say that after 3 long years, it is such a pleasure to be here in person and to see the familiar faces.
I think you grew a beard as well.
Yes, I have.
Yes, things have changed indeed. I didn't recognize you, but go ahead.
So should I begin a presentation, a 5-minute presentation?
Yes, please.
Because there's someone to speak to the application. Very well. So before the presentation, I'd actually like to make some changes to the application based on our conversation with planning staff. And I would like to please change variance number 6 regarding the side yard landscaping from 48.06% to 50%, while the requirement is 60%.
Okay.
And I would like to also please remove completely variance number 7.
So variance number 7 is removed.
Yes.
And variance number 6 has been increased to 50%. Any other changes?
No, thank you very much. I'd like to begin my presentation, please, with slide number 1 of the presentation package, if you may. Thank you very much. If we could just zoom into that slide. Thank you. We'd see that the first variance I'd like to speak to is the increased width of the driveway, which actually only reaches its maximum amount while we reach the house itself. So you can see that highlighted in purple, that increase is actually gradual and has only been done to give access to the 3rd car garage. And because the driveway is actually taken from the side of the home and the shallower portion of the home, that access is simply an access. You can see that there's no space to actually park 3 cars side by side, and simply a space has been given just to give a direct point to the 3rd car garage which exists. And we can see better that the majority of the driveway, the portion that's highlighted in yellow, and all of which is in city property, has been maintained under the transportation requirement width of less than 6 meters, which we have been very cognizant of to follow. If I can please see slide number 2. That increase in driveway width has also been responsible for the decrease in side yard landscaping. Now again, because we have taken the driveway from the flankage side of the home, which is actually what the bylaw requires, and because naturally that side area, it has a less of an area because it is shallow. It is because it is at the side of the home. Naturally, it is more shallow, and that has caused the major area, which is taken as the if you could say the denominator of the side yard landscaping, to be less. So, for example, a variance which we frequently see at the committee for front yard landscaping reduction, here, because our driveway is at the side, the front yard landscaping, for example, has been compensated from a requirement of 60%, while our front yard landscaping is 94%. It is far higher than what the bylaw requires. And conversely, we can see that there's no shortage of green space at the front of the home, the rear of the home, or even at the sides of the home, where highlighted in yellow, that's actually part of the city portion of the property, while in reality, that line delineating the city and private portion is just imaginary. So there's no shortage of green space in this home. That, coupled with the fact that we have slightly positioned the building and specifically the driveway to not only not remove, but to not even injure any of the 8 healthy trees that exist on the property. If I could please see slide number 3. Here we can see that there is quite a large slope and a difference between the left side of the home and the right side, which is actually at the portion at the right side has come far lower. There's a very severe slope. This slope has caused the established grade, which by definition is the average of those 2 points, to be actually far lower than where the actual grade of the home starts. Specifically the left side of the home. So this natural landscaping of the property has triggered variance number 5. And if we had not had this variance, the first floor of the home would actually be buried into the ground. And interestingly enough, the picture we see now, which is a 60-year-old or so bungalow, has followed the same pattern that we have. If you take a look at this picture, you can see that there are natural landscaping steps, quite a few actually, that reach to the first floor of the home. And they have done this for the same fact that we have done it, in order for the first floor not to be buried into the ground. And interestingly enough, the first floor that we are proposing is only 2 inches above the first floor level of the current bungalow that sits on the property. If I could please see slide number 4. I will speak to here the increase in building length, which has only occurred because of the 1-story extension, which is highlighted in blue. The portion of the main portion of the home has maintained its building length under the limit of the bylaw, and the 1-story extension actually is normally not considered part of the building length. And in this case, the only part of our 1-story extension which doesn't meet the requirements of that definition is its height. For example, the side yard setbacks of the 1-story extension have been maintained.
Okay, I'll ask you to summarize, please.
In summary, Madam Chair, the variances are minor, specifically when we consider the context in which they have been put forward. Thank you very much.
That was a good summary. Members, I just wanted to see if there's any questions you have of the agent. Members, there was someone to speak to this application. They no longer wish to speak to the application. So that being said, we've got an application here and a decision to make. We've got, the agent has made changes to the application to satisfy the staff report, in that variance number 6 is now increased to 50% and variance number 7 has been eliminated. And also please note, forestry conditions also apply. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with the following changes. Variance number 6, the proposed side yard landscaping is now 50%, and variance number 7 eliminated and subjected to urban forestry. That's my motion.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application with those conditions, seconded by Member Hunt. All those in favor? Your application has been approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members. Thank you, committee
Members,
staff.
let's take a 10-minute break. If you need more, let me know. But we'll be back here in 10 minutes to start with application number 8. Thank you.
Which one is it? Yeah, be very careful. You made an adjustment, so true. It's a very easy fix. It's just a matter of throwing it back as phase one. There you go. That's the answer. I understand.
You all are not implicated, but I was part of the camera. Yeah, it's shaking their hands. So I'm like, well, tired. Well, they asked me, do you think that my son knew Peter took her back? And I said, it's a very delicate question, I don't answer. And I said, and then the guy said, oh, I have your whatever you want, it's my opinion. And I was like, oh, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. And then just maybe I should say kind of no comment. No, I know.
No, absolutely.
Especially I have a moment.
For location. I always miss it. I would enjoy getting out of the house and seeing some people that I enjoy. No, I'm not actually. Now that it's started. For whatever reason, it doesn't do. Yeah, that was always. But I don't I brought, did you want some tangerines? Yeah. I should. But again, no, this is technical. Yeah, no, I know. For whatever reason. Missing to go get a coffee if that makes you not full. But if you have more time, 10 minutes. What do you guys need? Whatever you need. Yeah, go. You go with and then come back? Well, you have another 8 minutes. 8 minutes? Okay. Do you want coffee? No. Thank you. So, thank you for that. Oh, you won! That probably wouldn't go very quiet. He's probably like, holy shit, I can't deal with this over your throat. You know, it was a good fight, you know. The money. I bet that they're trying this. No, what work? I understand that I'm getting the roll around, but think what work, as I said. What 5 o'clock? We'll decide if you want to stay on or not. That's what gets it attention. Yeah. The workers are always more.
unless they really desperately need to get a plan about that, because it doesn't matter if it's really their last budget and somebody gets really scared. But I don't know if we can compete with the law here in court. I don't think we can. And not
Aye. Oh, well, it's 12 o'clock and we're on a 10-minute break and we've done half the morning.
Mr. Hunt, we could hear you online. You might want to mute yourself. Don't worry, you didn't say anything bad. Yet.
Come on, I want to see these applications, they're just private people. They're not even builders or flippers, right? I don't know. No, I was, because they were listening to everything. They were listening to everything. Well, but we should ask the architect that's fixing them. They could represent like somebody the owner of the business. They could, yeah. No, but the guy in this case, this one guy, yeah, he's representing. Yeah, and he was like, he's like representing three people here. They were saying the owner, like the yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Somebody's building a pool and all that stuff is usually for themselves. Usually not for sale. Because you don't build a pool to sell a house. Yeah. You don't get your money. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? So, which house are you? You know, so the only one they denied is that severance. Yeah, it seems like they are saying yes. It's very simple. It has to be minor. That's all it is. Really, and you have to do planning to support it. They have these tests. Planning has to kind of have tests, right? And if planning supports it, you guys are checked. And planning doesn't support it. Plus, CVP, right? So waterfront is the no. So when you have a proposal, you submit zoning, you submit planning as well. You know, if you even with the committee of adjustments, they will circulate it as planning. The ones that we're talking about have they been most of them, yes. Because I'm speaking of those in the neighborhood. What happened? You guys have some kind of resolution? I'll be honest, the committee, like, you know, considers planning support or non-support more than the neighbors a lot of times. But it makes sense because the planners are professionals, right? The neighbors, like you said, they just act in their own interests and emotions. So, you know, I'm sure they come and donate. I'm sure they come and donate. Like, they'll tell you whether they support it or not, right? So, you know, for example, they're increasing the house GFA or footprint by 4%. Okay, that's not really major in my view. For example, right? When one guy called in and he says, no, it's not really 4%, it's 5%, but in reality it's 15%. How do you go from 4% to 15%? With his what? Voodoo math? No, because he's saying he went from 30%. It's actually not. It's 5% or 30. It's 2 after you said that. No, but that's not how you count it, right? No, I'm just saying. No, you know what I mean? Like the guy's just making up his own math, right? It doesn't work like that. 5% of 30 is 15%. Sure, okay. It doesn't work like that. It's the lot coverage, right? That's how it is. 15%. No, they know. I mean, and remember, they study all this stuff before they hear it, right? They look at each case and all this. Oh, did they study before? Okay. It's not like this. It's not like you come into this blindly. They actually study the cases, right?
Okay, members, welcome back. If Okay, members, well, welcome back. Let's resume today's session. Before we resume, I forgot to say a thank you to Patrick and Mandy from IT who are helping us out today, and we're really grateful for their help. I wanted us to turn our attention now to item number 8. Item number 8, members, let's pull this up. It is 87 St. Clements Avenue, and this is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. Members, the agent is a Shadi Arani. Shadi Arani, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Shadi Orani from 685 Shepherd Avenue East.
Okay, members, there are a couple of folks to speak to this application. This is 2 variances, forestry applies, and there are about 5 letters of concern. But I do note that the owner has tried at length to work with the neighbors, and that was evident in the application itself. Ms. Arani, if you could share a 5-minute presentation, then we'll get to the other members who wish to speak, and we can take it from there. Go ahead.
For sure. If you don't mind, if you could please upload the presentation material. Yes, thank you. So as you mentioned, we are requesting only 2 variances, length and FSI. The proposed length is 16.9 meters. And as you can see on the drawing highlighted, the length of the east neighbor is at 17 meters. And on the west side, our proposed rear wall still sits 2.5 inches behind the rear wall of the west neighbor, which is shown with an orange line. We have not requested a variance for the rear deck, but since the majority of the concerns were not about the length, but about the deck from the neighbors, we've reduced the deck depth first from 2.5 meters to 5 feet, and now we've reduced it further to 1.2 meters, which is 4 feet. And also reduced the width of the deck, so the deck now has a side setback of 5 feet to both neighboring property lines, just so there would be more distance from the deck to the property line. As you can see, the reduced deck, if it's not smaller, it matches the depth of the west deck neighbor's deck. And honestly, at 4 feet, it's so narrow that can only be used as a passageway to access the backyard from the ground floor. And it cannot be an area to put furniture or gather to be an overlooking concern. The proposed deck would only be about 1.6 above the neighboring deck on the west side. We've also proposed, as you can see on the side plan, frosted glass as privacy screening on both sides, both east and west side of the deck, to prevent any overlooking to the neighboring properties. And at the same time, since it's frosted glass, it will not block any sunlight into the neighboring properties. Since there has been concerns about the proposal blocking the neighboring backyard, I just wanted to mention that the rear yard setback provision in the bylaw allows the residents to enjoy the privacy of their backyard unobstructed. The required rear yard setback in an R zone is 7.5 meters, and our proposed rear yard setback is 12.15. That is 4.65 meters over what the bylaw requires. If you could kindly go to the next page. So this is just a diagram with a green line showing the rear wall of the majority of new developments on the south side of St. Clements Avenue. As you can see, most of the new developments share the same rear wall on the south side, and this includes the 2 neighboring properties on the west side, which are 2 semi-detached houses. Next slide, please. So this is a hypothetical diagram showing if the building would follow the exact 14 meters length per bylaw and 17 meters depth per bylaw. If the house would be placed exactly according to the bylaw, the rear wall of the building could still be placed exactly in the same location that we have placed it at the moment. If you could kindly go to the next slide, please. This diagram shows the recent length approvals in the neighborhood, which all have the same bylaw exception of 14 meters limitation. On the same side of the street, if you call about exactly 2 weeks ago, actually, the house at 129 St. Clements, which is 15 houses to the west, got approved for a length of 19.66 meters. With regards to the FSI, I have pointed out the 2 of the FSIs, which got higher FSIs than what we are proposing due to the same technical issue of the new definition of the basement. Next page, please. You can see in the section that for the basement not to count towards the FSI, it would have to be have a ceiling height far more than what it currently has, something about 14 foot 4 inches, which meant extensive excavation on a narrow lot. And also our contractor, who's done quite a few projects in that neighborhood and on the street, warned us about the possibility of hitting underground water with a 14-foot deep basement. I just want to mention that the owners are in their 60s and are building this house as their future retirement home. The wife, Betty, has a heart condition and recently has had a spine fracture. So having a high basement like that with multiple stairs would significantly impact their enjoyment of their home. And also without the basement, if you don't consider the basement, the FSI would be at 71%. Next page, please. We've marked up the outline of the deck with a chalk on the existing detached garage, which currently exists on the site and will be removed to show the proposed obstruction in comparison to the existing brick garage with 3.16 meter high garage that is currently in the backyard and will be demolished. Next slide, please. Lastly, I've just posted some photos of the existing privacy screening in the neighborhood to show that it's very common in the neighborhood to have that, including the two side neighbors. Thank you so much, and I would be happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the first speaker. There's a Mr. Liu.
No, Kevin, I'm here.
Sorry,
Kevin
so
Fong.
Kevin Fong, right?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, that's it. We have somebody else online, I think, with that name. So if you could state your name and address for the record. Is your mic on?
Is it on? Yes, on. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and the members. My name is Kevin Fong. I am a resident at 83 St. Clements Avenue, which is the house adjacent and east of this dwelling. So there are 6 letters of objections from my neighbors, and I've spoken to all of them, including myself. And I've spoken to all of them, and we share the same concerns, which you're about to hear. And furthermore, I am really confused on the applicant's presentation just now, because she said she's changed the deck to 4 feet, which is not to my understanding, because what was presented originally was 8.5 feet, or 8.2 feet deep, and then at the last minute, she uploaded last minute before the deadline, she uploaded a deck that was 5 feet. And for the whole week, we've been in discussion with the applicant to try to reduce that. And as of yesterday, they said they did not want to reduce it any further and it would remain at 5. So I'm shocked. I mean, I'm very confused now when I come here that I see now she says, okay, it's now 4 feet. My presentation is based on 8.2 feet deck because that was what was uploaded. That was what the applicant told us before the deadline. So some of the numbers here are on my presentation and the drawings may differ, but unfortunately I did not have time to respond to their late submission. Okay, anyway, on this Google map, you can see I superimpose the dwelling next to my house. I think this is more clear than what was shown earlier. You can see on the drawing that it is, with the deck, it is clearly the longest deck in the immediate neighborhood. And especially if you look to the east of the dwelling, which is on the right side here, it's far the longest one. And what's concerning is this deck that is attached to the dwelling. Next slide, please, or the appendix, please. Yep. So this is my backyard on the left. We have a ground floor deck, just like all the neighbors in the immediate neighborhood. And I drew in what as best to my ability, what their dwelling would look like. The dwelling is 1.4 meter longer than my house with the variance. And in addition, they had well, in this case, I drew a 8 feet deck, but now I don't know what they are proposing now. It could be 5, could be 4, along with it. And what's concerning is the height of the deck. The height is a walkout from the family room, which is above their ground floor garage. So effectively, I know it's a 2-story house, but effectively, to me, it's really a 3-story building. So together with the building and the deck and the staircase protruding from the deck, it's roughly 6 meters. So that's 1.4 on the house, 1.5 on the deck, another 3 meters on the staircase. That's a total of 6 meters. My yard is 14.7 meters. So this structure would cover 40% of my yard. I'm very concerned about privacy because of the height of the deck. Our fences right now is a normal privacy fence of 1 meter, call it 5 feet. It's not enough to hide this massive structure in my view. And all the neighbors have the same concern because at that height, the deck, you can oversee easily 3 or 4 houses on each side. And that's, if you could go to the next slide, please. Yes, so this is a view of my east side. As you can see right now, all the neighbors' deck is on a lower ground, and we cannot see any of them. We enjoy our privacy on the yard. I feel, in my opinion, this proposed dwelling is not in character of our immediate neighborhood, and it doesn't retain the characteristics of the neighborhood. Thank you.
So I have a quick question for you. Thank you, Mr. Fong. I'm looking at the picture, and I guess a picture is kind of worth 1,000 words. I don't really see the neighbors who all have similar decks
Well,
to
that's
you.
exactly my point.
So it's really not, nothing is at a height within the
No.
backyards of all of this
No.
area.
All the decks in my neighborhood are similar. They're on the ground. So when we are having dinner at the yard, we cannot see any of the decks. The proposed deck, however, is 8 feet high.
Yes.
So that's why we are all upset that this deck will be in the line of sight for all the neighbors.
Okay. Let me see if members, do you have any questions, any additional questions?
So can I quickly ask a question? Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to just confirm that the neighbor that was talking, is it number 83? Are you located at the east side?
I am on the east side of the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, then no other questions. Let's bring on, there's another speaker who is wishing to speak, and that's Mr. Liu. L-I-U,
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Liu.
Chair.
Oh, it's sorry, ma'am. So,
Yes.
Ms. Liu, can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Dr. Xiaoning Liu at 91 St. Clements Avenue, the house immediately to the west of the new dwelling. So I'm here also representing the owners of 93 St. Clements Avenue and the owners of 95 St. Clements Avenue, all to the west of the proposed construction. So I echo what Kevin said, because I was also very shocked. As of yesterday, our last correspondence with the owner, he insists that they will build a 5-foot deck. So the presentation was a 4-foot deck. It's completely out of blue. And so my original submission was based also on the 8.2 foot deck they proposed in the original plan. And since I assume they will present 5 foot today, my prepared speech is about the 5-foot deck. So I'll just go through my privacy concerns, which was really what I worry about over the variance, and I'll see what I'll do about this all change back and forth. So I am a single woman who lives alone with a dog. And as assistant professor in the University of Toronto, I work from home most of the time. So I really hope to preserve my house and backyard as a safe space to live and work. So the lady of 93 St. Clements right next to me, also to the west, also lives alone with a dog. And she likes spending time in her backyard. So could you help me scroll down to the next, the pictures? Sorry, maybe the next one. Yeah, so this is how it looks like looking to the current dwelling from the west side, from my backyard. All right, and so the next one, could you also help me scroll down to the next one? So this is what how it will look like after construction of the new dwelling. And so as you can see, so this backyard they proposed will easily overlook my entire backyard, and they can even look into the windows of my, like both bedroom windows as well as the family room, which is my office and where I spend time every day. And so the very idea, and it's, so as far as I know, similar to what Kevin said, no one in our neighborhood has a second story deck that's that high that can overlook their immediate neighbor's backyard. So this makes me very uncomfortable. The thought of someone being able to overlook my yard and even observe me in my house anytime during the day is the least I want in my home. And so I wanted to be clear that I want my new neighbors, whom I respect with all my heart, to have a lovely house. I believe we can find a mutually agreeable solution that meets their needs and preferences, but we have been working with them all this past week. And then yesterday there was a last minute change of mind on their side, and now there's a last minute change of mind on their side, and they seem to be arguing the variance has nothing to do with how it's going to eventually impact our neighbors. So now I really don't know what I can do, and I just hope the committee can hear our concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Yes, Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just before we spend any more time on discussing the deck, I understand the neighbors' concerns, and however, there's only 2 requested variances for this application, and none of them have anything to do with the deck. I'd suggest that the neighbors might want to try and resolve the issue around the deck with the builder, but really the Committee of Adjustment has little to do with that issue. So just for future speakers, if
this is a question for us.
From that,
I think what he's doing is asking a question of you all, that the variances don't touch on the deck. My apologies, because I did not look at it to know that it was. And, that we should be talking about the actual variances in the application. So I see Mr. Fong is here to respond to that. And Ms. Liu, perhaps after we can turn it to you as well. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Quick response. Yes, you're absolutely correct. And we struggle with that as well as homeowners, because we don't know how to tie the plan back to the variance. However, the variance, because of the length of it, allows them to build this deck so far into the yard. As I pointed out, 40% of my yard will be covered by the deck, the staircase, and the building. So effectively, this variance allowance, the length of the house, allows them to do that. If they didn't have the allowance, we wouldn't be sitting here, because their deck would be set back and we wouldn't be able to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Liu, did you have something additionally that you'd like to add online about that?
Yes, so from my side, if the house is not pushed over the almost 3 meters over the bylaw, it would be not as deep as my house, and thus their deck will be blocked by my own building when they look over my backyard. So now, because they are extending their house so far deep, their house is now at the same depth from the street as my house. Their backyard and my backyard are parallel, and with that much higher than my deck, they can overlook everything. So definitely the deck and the length of the house are correlated in terms of the impact on the neighborhood. And it's true, we really struggled with this. And so I leave it to the committee to make the right choice.
Okay, thank you so much. So we do see that it is variance number 2 that's you're considering as excessive, because it is 16.9 meters versus what's expected at 14 meters, and even the floor space index is 0.97 times the area, when what's suggested is 0.6. Okay, so any other questions? Yes, Member Attarodi, go ahead, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question for both neighbors that have a concern regarding their privacy. If the applicant have a privacy screen, like opaque privacy screen on both sides of the deck, do they still have a concern for overlook? Thank you.
Can I start? We struggle with that question as well, and we also work with the applicant on that. And the answer is yes, because if you remember how high the deck sits, it really oversees my whole yard. It's normally on a ground level deck, when we have a normal privacy fence, when you're sitting down for dinner, you do not see your neighbor. This case is very, very different because they are so high up the ground, they can see everything. So a privacy deck will not cover the front. You can imagine, it covers the side, but because of their height, they can see everything from the front.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Then if that's the case, let's bring back out the agent. You've heard everything that's been sort of discussed between the members and the neighbors who are representing a larger spectrum of neighbors to the east and west of you. Can you, you have 5 minutes to provide a rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to mention that the reduced deck at 5 feet was actually sent in an email to the neighbors on August 1st, which was prior to the deadline of the objection. After we saw again objections from the neighbors, we reduced that deck further to 4 feet. We reached out to all the neighbors. If I couldn't meet with them, I left letters with them. With the exception of the 2 side neighbors, I did not hear any concerns from anyone until we saw the objection letters. And that is why past the deadline, we also reduced the deck by another feet. I want to mention to Mr. Fong, because he mentioned that the deck will occupy 40% of his backyard. I just did a quick measurement, and the deck actually only occupies 17% of his backyard. There is a big difference in that. And our proposal does not have a second floor balcony, which would cause overlooking, while his house has a second floor balcony, which I had on my presentation, which overlooks into this property. On all the objection letters, unfortunately, despite my email to them when I mentioned that the deck height is only 6 foot 10 inches, all the objection letters refer to the deck height as 8 feet. I am uncertain why, but there are a lot of copy and paste on the objection letters with information that were misunderstood. I met with them on site. We marked up the height of the deck. We measured it on Miss Liu's backyard, but still the diagram that was shown is not in line with what we measured on site. As I mentioned in my presentation, the depth of the deck is identical to Miss Liu's deck height, the depth, and the height is only 1 foot 6 higher. So, regarding the location of the rear wall, in my presentation, I mentioned that the location of the rear wall is not triggered by the variance. That is as of right per bylaw. The house could be built from that extent. But the owners of the house really want to work with the neighbors, and that is why they made twice changes to make sure that although the deck is not a variance, to make sure that we can change this to make the neighbors happy. As I mentioned before, Betty has a condition that she would not be able to take the stairs down. So we removed the deck, which means that every time that she wants to go to the backyard or sit somewhere, she can't use the deck, so she has to take 11 steps down. So we really did our best. We also reduced the width from both sides to make sure that there's 5 foot setback to further distance ourselves from the 2 side properties. I believe that is it. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for clarifying that the deck is 4 feet and that the height of it is 6.10 inches. Members, do you have any questions? Just wanted to also ask one question of you. If this were to go to approval, and I'm not saying that it will, but would you be opposed to also putting up privacy barriers on either side of the deck? That would help.
We would be happy to.
Okay. So members, if that is a condition, you would have to specify the minimum, which is, I think, 5 feet from floor to height, right? I think it's...
I believe it's 1.8 meters.
1.8 meters? Okay, thank you so much for that, Member Hunt. If nothing else and no other questions, can I get a motion on this, members? Member Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you. And listening to everything and looking at what's happened in the neighborhood, including the lengths of the adjacent properties and others in the neighborhood, I do see this application as being minor, therefore I will prefer a motion to approve this application, subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo attached.
Will you be putting any privacy screens that they're open to?
No, I mean, that's not a requirement for me.
Okay. All right. Motion from Member Bartolo to approve with the condition of forestry, I believe. Yep. And can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? And those opposed? Okay. I'm going to also go with the motion of opposition, and I'm going to deny that motion. Can I get a new motion? Motion from Member Member Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with the position of my colleague that this is minor, so I am going to approve this or recommend approval of this, subject only to the erection of 1.8 meter screening on either side of the deck in terms of some opaque material.
Thank you. Would forestry also be part of your conditions?
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Can I?
So is it at both sides of the property? Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Ron.
Both sides of the deck.
Both sides of the
Yes.
Both sides.
Okay, therefore I'll, if it's opaque screening, I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Member Atarodi. That new motion by Member Hunt to approve with those conditions, and all those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you. Your application has been approved unanimously with those specific conditions, and I would urge you to work with the neighbors to ensure that, there's at least the least amount of impact to their privacy as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Yes, for sure.
Okay. Members, turn our attention to item number 9. This has quite a number of folks speaking to it. That's number 39, Chudleigh Avenue. Members, number 39 Chudleigh Avenue is an application to construct a new 2-story dwelling with a rear deck, rear walkout, and covered porch with window projection on the east wall. Please note, members, that there are 3 variances on here, but there are 12 letters of objection, and one of those letters is from the Lytton Park Association, Neighborhood Association, and we do have a number of speakers on here. So I'll bring out Franco Romano. If you're there, if you could state your name and address for the record, please, and you can begin a presentation for us. Mr. Romano, if you're
Good
there.
afternoon, Madam Chair. Sorry, I was just unmuted. Thank you. If staff can kindly bring up my slide number 1 of my presentation materials, please.
While they're doing that, just
application,
state your address for us, please.
Yes, thank you. Franco Romano, Action Planning, 321 Lakeshore Road in Port Credit.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, staff, for bringing this up. So this table shows on the left-hand side the Committee of Adjustment that was denied back in June of 2023, and it had 7 variances. The middle column in blue identifies the revisions, and on the right-hand side in green, we'll see that there are currently before this panel 3 variances. The 3 variances is for a west side yard setback of 0.91 meters, whereas 1.2 meters is required. The floor space index of 0.72 times the area of the lot, and a window projection that occupies 40% of the east side main wall instead of 30%. And that the explanations that I have in terms of the middle column is in the previous application, the application involved a number of other variances, and the owner has listened to and worked with persons that have been willing to work with the owner. And so the rear deck that had a projection and a height that is about 1.8 to 2.1 meters has been lowered. So the rear deck no longer requires a variance, and it is closer to ground level. Side yard setback on the west side has been improved, so it's been increased. So 0.91 meters, it used to be 0.61 meters. The east side yard setback complies with the zoning bylaw, so there's no variance for the east side. The floor space index has been reduced from 0.745 to 0.72. And we'll see the next items 4, 5, and 6, the rear platform encroachment, that variance has been removed. The eaves setback on the east and west side have been removed. And there's been no change to the window projection, and we'll see that that measurement amounts to 6.81 meters, whereas 5.1 meters would be permitted. On slide 2, this is a context map that shows a floor space index context along Chudleigh Avenue. And along Chudleigh, we'll see that there's quite a few properties. They may be 100 years old, they may be 5 years old, 2 years old, they may be under construction, they may be approved. Floor space index greater than the base 0.35 is a common condition, it's a prevailing condition. The floor space index range is from 0.26 to 0.94. And there are about 89% of the properties just on Chudleigh alone exceed the 0.35%. Floor space indices above 0.6 and above 0.7 are also quite common. And if we go to the next slide, this is the site plan. We'll see that the proposal fits in with the surrounding character. The front wall lines up well. The side yard setback where there's a variance is at the lower part of this site plan drawing. The upper part is zoning bylaw compliant. See the rear yard setback is well in excess of the minimum required rear yard setback. The driveway is being reduced in size in order to wrap around a city tree so that there's no interference with any city or private trees that are regulated. The building length is 17 meters, and that's in keeping with what is permitted, and it's placed in an appropriate location. Landscaping throughout is fully compliant and in excess of what is zoning bylaw compliant. I also have the survey shown in the lower right-hand side. And that survey shows at number 41, the neighbor on the side where there is a variance being sought, has full access on their property for their side yard, which is also less than the zoning bylaw requirement today. And that is a condition that has existed and is not changing whatsoever, because I do understand that there were some concerns relating to access there, but there's no changes to what is being occurring on that side. And if we turn to the next slide, slide 4, we'll see that the roof is very sloped. And this was a concern earlier, but the roof is less than the zoning bylaw requires permission. So subject to any questions, I submit that the variances as revised in this new application are minor in nature and create no unacceptable adverse impact. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? If no questions, then let's move on to the first speaker here, and let's get Scott Lutz. And just as a reminder, well, is there anyone in the waiting room waiting to talk to this in the audience? Because I'll let you go first. Okay, there being none, let's talk to Scott Lutz. And if all of the members who are wishing to speak, again, the reminder, please don't repeat what's already been stated. It will not advance your case, but, try to bring up any new fresh points as possible for committee members to understand. Okay, Mr. Lutz, if you can state your name and address and begin your commentary. You've been unmuted.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Scott Lutz. I live at 28 Chudleigh, which is diagonally across the street. I'm also representing some opinions of some neighbors who could not be here at 15 Chudleigh Avenue. So the first point that I'd like to bring up rear deck, countering to the points brought up by the previous speaker, the deck is in fact lowered, but the landscaping, which he failed to mention, was actually raised by several centimeters, tens of centimeters. So while the net effect is a reduction in the deck of the height, sorry, the appearance is that the deck height is reduced. In fact, the rear landscaping was raised significantly to give the illusion that the deck is lower than it is. So that is not even a variance that is requested in this proposal, which is unfortunate. That speaks a bit to the lack of communication that I have had as a neighbor across the street. There have been apparently some contacts with some of the immediate neighbors, but I don't think there's been very genuine outreach by the builders or the architects or the owners. Secondly, the other point, because I won't belabor, as you mentioned, some of the other points already well understood by this review committee. The bay window on the east side, it is true that they have not changed the request. It still is seeking a variance on the size of that bay window. But to me, there's again a little bit of hoodwinking there, because the side view elevation of their submitted drawing shows 30% of a given portion of that east side of the drawing of the structure, indicating that perhaps that was the area in question, when in fact it's that huge bay window that is actually 40% of the west side of the structure, and that seems a bit misleading at best. And not only, I think the last point regarding the driveway, yes, it's true they've accommodated the setbacks for the tree growth in the front, but a double garage in the front of a house is unique to this block of Chudleigh. Architecture, everyone has their own taste in architecture, but this large, massive, fronting-looking piece of design is not common and would set, I think, a detrimental precedent for the street. I think that's all for my comments on the biggest points that I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, any questions? If not, we're moving on to the next speaker noted, and that's one of them will speak, either a David L. Perry or a Frida Perry. Who's there? And if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Frida Perry. My husband.
You're so mute.
Okay,
Right.
we just need one of you to speak. So if you can, whomever wishes to speak can state their name and address, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you both, so go ahead.
Okay, good. My husband will address the issues. Thank you.
Okay. It's David Perry, 36 Chudleigh Avenue. I live directly across the street from 39. I'd like to thank Hyphen for moving the west wall back the 1 foot further. At least now a proper scaffold can be erected to work on number 41's air conditioning and heat pump when they need to service it. But I don't see a lot of other changes from the original proposal. The height restriction is maintained by flattening the roof, but the gently sloping sides will be seen from duplex and from Chudleigh. And because of the extra length that this house is, they will appear almost as walls to the neighbors. A 16-foot wide parking pad on the front of the house with a 2-car garage is found nowhere else on the street. And lastly, the canopied porch, followed by 8 or 10, followed by a pad with 2 more steps down to the driveway will be larger than any other front protrusion on the block. And these 3 features significantly alter the streetscape and the design of the street. The last issue I want to raise is the matter of drainage. It states that all the surface drainage should be confined within the boundaries of the owner's property, and that existing drainage patterns shall not be altered. With the much larger house footprint, the increased driveway parking pad, the front porch, the back deck and the walkout, and the backyard access, the amount of land available to absorb water is much diminished. I can only see flooding in 39's backyard and the adjacent backyards, and the driveway being used as a conduit to remove water onto the main street. I think these are valid concerns, and I thank you for listening to what I have to say.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, any questions? If not, let's move on to the next speaker, and that's Beverly Zhu. Beverly Zhu, if you can state your name and address for our records, and you may begin.
Through you, Madam Chair, Beverly Zhu is not currently present.
Okay, then let's move on to Michael Connolly and Ann Edwards. One of you to speak if you're online. If you can state your name and address and begin your presentation, and try not to repeat points that have already been made. Go ahead.
We are Ann Edwards and Michael Connolly, and we live at 41 Chudleigh. Before stating our concerns, we'd like to note the absence of good faith communication on the part of the applicant with the surrounding neighbors about their plans, not just with their first application, but with their second one as well. They submitted this second application to the COA on June 20th, 2 weeks after the June 10th meeting, without any communication or consultation with the neighbors beforehand. And Franco Romano only communicated with neighbors after the notice for this meeting was sent out by COA. Also, in the letter from the director of the Lytton Park Residents Association, Eli Aaron, who is also a land use planner, noted that the applicant indicated a zoning review on his application. However, Mr. Aaron confirmed that Toronto building staff have not reviewed the new plans because no zoning review has been requested. In fact, the applicant has used a zoning waiver contrary to what the applicant included on his application. The applicant did not get the required zoning approval prior to submitting their second application. We have 3 main concerns about this second application for 39. Our first concern is about variant 2. The new proposal requests a floor space index of 0.72. This is only microscopically modified from the 0.745 requested in the first proposal. This new plan still more than doubles the maximum allowed floor space of 35% to 72%. They want to build a 4,200 square foot house on a 35-foot frontage. This doesn't seem to be a minor variance. This will be a huge house with very little green space, so different from the other houses on our street. Looking at the second bullet point in his letter, Mr. Aaron writes that in calculating the FSI, the applicant has dedicated the entire void, failing to comply with the bylaw calculation of the FSI. Toronto building staff have confirmed a maximum of only 10% of the FSI can be deducted. In his fourth bullet point, Mr. Aaron goes on to say that the proposed FSI is incorrect because the FSI required to construct the house is at least 0.76. That is more than the FSI of 0.7 745 stated in their proposal. Our second concern is about the built-in garage. No other houses with a 35-foot frontage in our neighborhood has a built-in double garage in the front of their house. In the third bullet point of his letter, Eli Aaron notes that the applicant has failed to comply with regulation number 10.5.40.40.3 This regulation stipulates that on lots with a frontage of less than 12 meters with one dwelling unit, only one parking space can be deducted from the FSI calculation. Mr. Aaron goes on to say that Toronto building staff have confirmed that only one parking space can be dedicated on this lot. Our third concern is about the width and height of the proposed house. The new proposal still encroaches by 1 foot over the side allowance on our side. That leaves just 5 feet of space between our two houses. This is a problem. While some other houses on the street have just 5 feet of space between the side walls, those side walls don't have doors. But we do have a door on the east, on that side of our facing 39, which we use all the time. Because of the way our
I'll
house
ask
was
you to summarize, please.
okay. For all these reasons, we believe this application should be rejected. I just wanted to, no, just a second. Okay, so just about, I want to finish up the point about because of the way our house was constructed, we can't bring large objects down the basement via the front door. This is not a concern just because of moving big furniture in and out, but for safety reasons. If there was a medical emergency in the basement, the only way paramedics could get a stretcher down there would be through that east side door. 5 feet is just not enough for a full-length stretcher and 2 paramedics to maneuver safely. We are also worried about the height of their home. In the plan, their eaves tower 7 feet over our eaves. The impact of falling snow and ice from their roof could so easily damage our eaves.
Okay, I'll stop you right there. And members, any questions? There being none, then let's move on to Andrew Dawes. Andrew Dawes, if you can state your name and address, and if you can begin your presentation not repeating what's already
Can you
been
hear me?
heard. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Very good. My name is Andrew Dawes. I live at number 48 Chudleigh. And my main objection to this proposal is that the lot coverage is much more than 0.74 or 0.72. We have this big deck. We have a big pergola in front. We have a double driveway. My question is, where is all the runoff water supposed to go? We're gonna be very surprised when we have flooded basements and the Don River is closed. And we really are not planning ahead if we let every house on the street cover this amount. I mean, it's not just the house, it's the paved sidewalk on the back, between the two houses. Please tell me where the water is supposed to go. That's for that reason I want to see this proposal rejected out of hand. All right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker. There's one of you to speak, Grant Chapman or Jacqueline Chapman. If one of you can come on and state your name, address, and if you can.
Good morning, everyone. Or
Sure.
good afternoon, everyone. I
Go ahead.
apologize. It's now afternoon. I apologize. I am going to just speak with. I'm at 34 Chudleigh, directly across from 39 Chudleigh. We've been in the neighborhood for about 12 years. We had renovations done to our home and had community of adjustment discussions and worked closely with all our neighbors to ensure that everything that was met was honest and upfront, and that everybody had feedback. And that's the kind of neighborhood that we work in. I'm not going to address what already has been addressed, which is this behemoth size of home that has been proposed, and the coverage and so on, and the swimming pool that they are basically creating when it rains with the underground parking lot and the walkout. What I'm going to address is what I'm most concerned about is the tree in front of both 41 and 39 more specifically the tree that is in number 39 that is on the front lawn of number 39, and I will use feet instead of meters. It is 17 feet from the east boundary, or 18 feet from the west boundary. So we can all use math. At a 35-foot lot, it's smack dab in the middle. When you look at the driveway consideration that they have to navigate one vehicle in, and then magically somehow shift your vehicle from coming in that direction to park beside an adjacent vehicle, you're going to have to be a very good parker. But two, more importantly, you, while excavating for this parking garage, you will destroy that 60-plus-year-old city tree. And I'm actually also equally as concerned about the tree on the 41 Chudleigh lot. It equally will have a significantly larger canopy than represented on the drawings. In both 39 and 41's trees are significantly larger than represented here, and their placement is questionable with regards to their representation on these 2D drawings. My biggest concern would be excavation would begin, tree rooting system would get damaged, and in a year from now, one of those trees would be dead. And so that is my significant concern. It does feel like a slightly bit of misrepresentation with regards to that tree placement. And ultimately, I think as a neighborhood in general, we feel that there has been a shroud of darkness that all of this has been presented, which was raised by previous members from our community that have already spoken. And my concerns is calling out what is not referenced in a variance, but should always be concerning is the green space that we all occupy and the trees that the city has planted over 60 or 70 years ago that we all respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? There being none, let's move on to the next speaker. Is there a Ron Lloyd there? If you can state your name and address and begin your presentation, not repeating what's already been said. Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Ron Lloyd is not present.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to the last person noted to speak here, and that's a Hua Pei. Hua Pei, if you can state your name and address and begin your comments.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is Hua Pei, the resident of 37 Chudleigh, the east side of 39 Chudleigh. I have concern about the bay windows because the bay window, it's direct to our main entrance, so there's no privacy for us at all. And also for the bay window, it's close to the property line. So if we do move any furniture or any big pieces, and we'll have the damage the glass window, make more dangerous scenario for both sides residents. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any questions? There being none, I'll invite Mr. Romano to come back on and address the concerns that he's heard with respect to the neighbors that have spoken so far. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the residents that are here participating today, and for those that did communicate with me both verbally, in person, and via email as I reached out to them with my explanation of the revised proposal in, I guess, July 26th and July 29th, which was all in advance of the mailing of the public hearing notice and well over 2 weeks ago. So I appreciate their input. In terms of the zoning bylaw compliance, the front yard setback, the front yard driveway, the front yard parking condition is all zoning bylaw compliant. So is the landscaping in the front and in the rear yard. Along the sides, there is no side yard landscaping variance required as well. And there is no change in grade. There is obviously some grading that's going to occur on the site to facilitate the building, but there is no substantial increase in grade. It's just not permitted to be done so in order to allow that rear deck to be zoning bylaw compliant. That rear deck is measured at a height around the perimeter at the back, and that is very consistent with what the grade is currently today, right next to the garage, which is next to where the deck is to be located. So that front tree, also urban forestry has no concerns. We've discussed it with them, and I'm not sure, they must have a condition of approval. I haven't seen it, but they have no concerns with the mitigation measures that have been employed, which is the staying out of the tree protection zone for the building, as well as the driveway. The driveway skirts around it, which is a fairly common condition that occurs when access of this nature is permitted. In terms of the building height, I've already mentioned that the building height is lower than the zoning bylaw permits. That includes the wall height. So there is no ice impact or snow impact. I heard that from the previous Committee of Adjustment hearing when I listened to it. I wasn't there at the hearing, but I did listen to it. I heard it again today, but that is not of a concern. The bay window is located exactly where the existing side wall is located. So the bay window does not project any further than where the existing wall is, nor does it allow any different overlook than what the existing wall does today. In terms of setback conditions, the proposal does not overlap the property line. So each neighbor, east and west, have the ability to access their property up to the property line, and the proposal does not interfere with that whatsoever. There is no right-of-way, there is no easement located upon the subject property that would allow persons to the east or west, even the front and to the rear, to trespass on top of the subject property in order to get into their property, and that is the same vice versa. There's no easement or right-of-way that the subject property's owner has over neighboring properties. So everybody can stay on their own property, and that's consistent with the existing condition. That's consistent with drainage. Drainage will be facilitated by the zoning bylaw compliant landscaping, and there'll be a grading plan that the building department will confirm that all the grading and drainage will stay on the subject property and be directed towards the street along the front for the boulevard with a 2% slope in the driveway, and that's consistent with the building permit requirements. So it's my submission that the proposal does indeed have substantial zoning bylaw compliance.
I'll ask you to please summarize.
That is consistent with the surrounding character and the surrounding physical condition. And the proposal is minor in nature. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions of the agent? There being none, as you know, there's 3 variances. There are a number of letters as well as persons representing, concerns for the neighborhood. The applicant has addressed many of those, and there are no other staff conditions. Can I get a motion? Motion from Member Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I've heard what the applicant's had to say, and in all honesty, most of the complaints lodged here don't really have a lot to do with the variances. Not to say that none of them do. I will say that issues of construction and drainage will be dealt by the building department as they go through this process, and they make sure there's no adverse impacts insofar as those items go. And even if we wanted to, our purview does not permit us to kind of wade into those areas, so to speak. But on the balance of the variances presented here, and within looking at the context of the neighborhood, I understand that the architecture may not be everybody's cup of tea, so to speak. But again, that's not necessarily for us to look at. All of that being said, I do believe that the variances are minor in nature. Therefore, I will put forward a motion to approve this application.
Motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application as is. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, Member Attarodi and Member Hunt opposing, and I will go with the motion of Member Bartolo. And so, sir, your application has been approved.
Thank you kindly. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on then to item number 10. The next few items, members, don't have anyone speaking to them unless there's someone in the audience that needs to let us know. In opposition, that is. So let's move on to item number 10. Please note, members, item number 10 is a proposal to construct a rear and second-story addition basement, wood deck, interior alterations, and convert to 3 units. Please note that there's no one to speak to this. There is 4 variances. We've got Eddie Perez. Mr. Perez, if you can state your name and address, please.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Eddie Perez. We're at 537 Rogers Road and EKP Designs.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we need a presentation for this? Okay. There being none, Mr. Perez, do you have anything that you'd like to say before the members take this into committee?
No, just said everything's minor in nature, and GFA is slightly over because they're counting the basement. The actual GFA for first and second is only 50-something%. So it's a very modest application and meets the 4 tests.
All right. Thank you for that. Members, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion? Motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that the requested variances are minor, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application.
Motion.
Without condition.
Motion from Member Kidd to accept this application without condition. Can I get someone to second it? Seconded by Member Hunt. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, let's move on to item number 11, which is 25 Citation Drive. Please note that there are 10 variances. Forestry does apply. There is a staff report that just asks for one thing, that variance number 4 be modified to 8.11 meters, and then additionally one small condition to that. Can we get Mr. Rubinoff back here, please?
Hello, good afternoon. It's Glenn Rubinoff.
Right. Are you making any revisions to the application based on the staff report?
Yes, absolutely. We had meetings with city planning and we agreed to adjust variance number 4 from 9.04 to 8.11.
So variance number 4 is confirmed to have been reduced according to the staff report to 8.11 meters. And you're okay with the other condition that's on there?
Yes. Yep.
Members of committee, there is no other persons to speak to this application. Do you require a presentation of Mr. Rubinoff? There being none, can I get a motion with those modifications, please? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with the following modification. Variance number 4, the main wall height is now changed to 8.11 meters. And I would like to add the staff condition on the report August 3rd, 2023, that the proposal be developed in accordance with the front elevation drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment drawings on as an attachment number 1, and also would like to subject it to urban forestry.
Okay, thank you. Member Attarodi with a motion to approve those this application with those conditions, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Members, let's turn over to item number 12. This is 2 Hawksdale Road. 2 Hawksdale Road is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. Please note, members, there are 10 variances, forestry conditions, as well as a staff report that asks that they remove variances 1, 5, and 6 and modify variances 4 and 7, which is the lot coverage to 37% or less. I've noted that there were some revisions done. However, item number 7 or variance number 7 hasn't been quite reduced to 37%. Let's get the agent out here, and that is Nelson Espinola. Nelson Espinola, if you can state your name and address for the record, please. Nelson Espinola.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to request that Nelson mute and unmute his microphone.
Hello?
There you go. Please state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Nelson Espinola, as the agent for this application.
Okay, Mr. Espinola, can you state for us what the revisions are to your application at this time?
Yes, we have further changes to make to this application. So to start with, variance number 1 is going to be eliminated. Variance number 2 is
Sorry,
going to
can
be
you
eliminated
repeat that?
as well.
Variance number 1 is going to be eliminated, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Variance number 2 is to be eliminated as well.
Okay.
Variance number 4, with regards to length, gets changed to 18.25.
The variance
Variance.
number 4 is changed to 3.25, did you say?
18.25.
18.25, okay, 18.25.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Variance number 5 gets eliminated.
Okay.
Number 6 gets eliminated.
Okay.
Number 7 gets changed from 44.7 to 40.36.
40.36%. So we've got variance number 1, 2, and 5 eliminated. Variance number 4 is reduced to 18.25 meters, and variance number 7 gets reduced to 40.36%. As per the staff report, they had asked for 37% or less, but he has left it at 40.36%. Please note, members. Can you provide just a brief presentation on, especially on why you've decided to keep the 40.36 versus 37%, so that members have an understanding of why this decision came about?
Yes, to reduce it to 37%, we wouldn't end up with the house that's not going to be functional for my client's needs. It's 3% reduction. It's quite a bit in terms of the interior layout. So this is why we reduced from 44.7 to 40.36, which was a substantial reduction already.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions, or if you require a more fulsome explanation for something else or a presentation, please let me know as well. Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification, if the applicant modified any of the variants 8, 9, 10, and I personally appreciate a presentation.
Okay, if you can present and explain while you're presenting those questions that Member Attarodi has, please go ahead.
The variances 8, 9, and 10, they are sort of minor in nature. Variance number 8, for instance, we're going from 75 to 73.47, which is very close to what's being requested. And same with the other landscape variances. We think it's in keeping with the area. In our opinion, it's not, this development will not have a negative impact on our neighbors. My client has been discussing this with the adjacent neighbors, and they are all comfortable with our proposal. As I mentioned, we don't see this as having a negative impact on our neighbors.
Okay. Any other questions, members? There being none, please note the variances that have been changed. I won't repeat them because I've done that already a couple of times. Forestry does apply, 10 variances, mostly revised. Can I get a motion? Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel that the application as amended is appropriate for this property. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application as amended. Those changes have been read into the records. I won't do that again. And I'd like to make it subject to forestry condition.
Okay, thank you. Motion from Member Kidd to approve this application with the changes that were made by the applicant here today, as well as forestry. Can I get someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Bartolo. His hand is just raising up ever so slowly, so I know he needs a lunch break. And so we'll put forward, can I get someone, sorry, I need a lunch break. Can we, what's the next step? We need you to approve it. All those in favor? And opposed? Ms. Attarodi dissenting. Your application has been approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, let's move on to item number 14, which is 983 GLENCAIRN Avenue. Members, 983 GLENCAIRN Avenue is a proposal to alter an existing two-story daycare. No, sorry, it's number 13. 13. My apologies, that is number 14 St. Clements Avenue, and that is a proposal to alter an existing two-story daycare with a one-story addition on the north side, endorsed vestibule on the south side, outdoor platforms north and south side of the building. Here we have members, this is 5 variances. Forestry does apply. There were some previous decisions on the file. There is a staff report from Heritage saying that there is one heritage planning condition on there. Can we get the agent out? And that is an Ellen Chow. Ellen Chow, there's no one else to speak to this application, by the way. If you could state your name and address for the records, please.
Hi, it's Elaine Chow.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm representing
If you can
Workshop
speak
Architecture.
into the phone or the microphone better, we're hearing you very lightly.
Hi, is this better?
That's way perfect. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. My name is Elaine Chow. I am representing Workshop Architecture. Address is 6 Sousa Mendez Street, Toronto.
Okay, and if you can let us know if the planning staff condition is, are you in agreement with that? Are you okay with that? Sorry, the heritage
Is that
planning?
with
Yeah.
regards to the heritage comment?
Yes.
Yes, we're in agreement.
Okay. That being said, that was sort of the only big staff report besides forestry. Members, do you require a presentation for this application? Member Attarodi requires a presentation. Members, if, Ms. Chow, if you wouldn't mind giving us a brief presentation on this application, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yes, Sure. I submitted a presentation document. If you go to page 2, which is the site plan, can speak to the 5 variances in the document. So the site plan is showing in gray is the existing heritage building, and we're requesting variances for a rear elevated platform on the north side, and also a ramp or platform on the south side. So the ramp on the south side is replacing an existing ramp which already exceeds the front setback requirement. So we're not really, it's kind of an existing condition, and we're improving it by pushing it within the setback property line. For the rear deck on the north, we are providing a consistent 2-meter setback along the property line. You can see that it jogs a bit, and there are dimensions that identify the consistent 2-meter setback. For the 1-story addition, that is replacing an older addition to the existing heritage building, and this new addition is going to be in the same footprint as what's currently there. So it's actually maintaining a 3-meter setback from the north and that 0.3 side setback to the west. If you go to page 13, we have some diagram, like a 3D diagram showing the proposed condition on the north property line with the raised deck, and then the 1-story addition, which you see it's in the same footprint as the older addition in gray with the setback dimensions. And the next page, page 14, is showing the front of the building, or the south property line, and that new ramp into the heritage building. And the next page, the last page, shows the existing condition of the on the left side is the south portion of the site, where you see that little addition I was talking about. It will be demolished, and we're building the new one in the same footprint. And then the next image is the current ramp, which isn't meeting code, so we're putting a new ramp into the building, and it's within the property line.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, if no questions, Heritage Planning has a condition as well as forestry. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application subjected to urban forestry memo and subjected to the condition of the heritage plan dated on a report dated August 10th, correct?
That's correct, yes.
August 10th, 2023. Do you want me to read the condition?
No, that's fine. I think we've got that.
That's my
motion
motion.
from Member Attarodi West for approving this with those conditions. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Member Hunt. All those in favor? Ma'am, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, moving on to item number 14. Item number 14 is 983 Glencairn Avenue, and this is a proposal to expand the deck and shed in the backyard Please note, members, there is only one variance. There's no one else to speak to this application. It is, the agent is Lucas Nowek. Mr. Nowek, are you there? If you can state your name and address for the records.
Hello, good afternoon, members of committee. I'm Lucas Novak. I'm here for the deck variance and the shed variance.
Okay, thank you. Members, there's only one variance on here and no other staff conditions. Do you require a presentation? Heads
I'm not
nodding.
sure if there isn't a couple of small other ones. I was just reviewing the bylaw. I don't know.
Sorry, are you talking to me or are you talking to
I'm
someone
talking
else?
to the members.
The members, what are you saying about?
On your record, you only say you have one for the size of the deck.
We only have one variance on here. That is around the permitted maximum area of each platform. For the second story of a detached house is 4 square meters, and your proposed area is 33 square meters. So it's just one variance. Are you saying that you've
I
left
think
out? There's others?
There's 3 small other ones for setbacks.
So then if that's the case, it's not here. We may have to defer your application so that you can work that out with planning and come back sine die, which is at the next possible hearing.
Right, but
In order to, and so you would not be charged an extra time, or your application will not be denied.
It was in the application, though.
I'm
The
not
setback- the
seeing this
setbacks.
here, and I am not noting. I will have the Deputy Secretary Treasurer just weigh in quickly on that. He's just looking it up right now, and we can only go with what's before us in terms of what's been outlined.
Okay.
There's only one that is noted, so I
Right.
think what you may have to do is defer this application in order to work that out with city planning if there are more variances, because as of now, we only have one, and if there's more, you're not going to get that addressed as well. It needs to be recirculated with the members,
Yeah.
the neighbors.
So what
Okay.
happened was there was an updated application. Maybe your stuff didn't process it. I don't know.
Okay, so.
I don't know. Can I ask one question?
Sure. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If we
Thinking
move
you were-
forward with the deck variance, then I cannot come back and defer it.
No, I think that it's a matter of if it has to be, it'll be a separate application.
Then I
I'm
would have to
thinking.
create another application.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if we move forward with the deck variance, and we missed some other stuff, it might come back again from zoning, right?
Right.
Is that correct? Oh, am I? I don't know. I just identified, more variances, right? They're small, but they're there, I think.
Madam Chair, did you want me to?
Yes, please weigh in.
So through you, Madam Chair, the zoning review only shows one variance, as noted on the public notice. If this gentleman is asking whether he can get a building permit if there are additional variances, the answer is likely no. He will either have to amend his drawings to conform or reapply. If he gets a decision today and there are missing variances, he will have to make a new application to come back. If he defers today, he can check again with Toronto Buildings, because like I said, the zoning
Yeah.
review that we have on record only shows one variance. He may have to have a further discussion with Toronto Buildings and then come back at a later date.
Probably better to defer. Probably better. And just double check all this and make sure it's on record, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
another
would say
$9,000.
That might be a good course of action so that you're not missing anything. It gets recirculated. You don't lose any money in the process.
Yeah.
And you come back at the next available, like the first available date right after
Now, can
you've
we
gotten
make
everything together.
Can we make another date right away, or we have to do it with the
No,
staff?
that, you have to take care of that stuff, and then you work with the planning team to look for the next available date.
Okay. We'll just defer it.
Sorry about that, but
That's
okay,
okay.
let's move forward with a deferral request. Members, you've heard what he said. He's requesting a deferral of this application for those reasons. Can I get a motion for that? Member Atarodi?
Yes.
Motioning, yep, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to defer this application so the applicant can address or add the missing variance to the application.
Okay.
Sine die.
Okay, motion from Member Atarodi to approve this deferral request, sine die, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, it's
Alright.
been deferred.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'll
I
just
didn't.
speak to the clerks. Get
Okay.
another date. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. Thanks.
Members, let's turn our attention to the final item of the morning agenda, and that's item number 15, which is 60 Cranbrook Avenue. We've got a person here in person, the agent in person. Please note that for this application, we've got it's to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling. There's only 3 variances noted and forestry. There's no one here to speak to this application. Members, do you require a presentation or any explanations of any of the variances? Member Atarodi is asking for a brief presentation explaining some of the variances. Go ahead.
No
Oh,
problem.
sorry. We've got a Stephen Lindy. Govind Sivan. Did I say that correct?
No, I'm Michael Lafreniere. I'm the applicant. Govind
Oh,
is the
you're
owner.
okay. So he's not okay.
Yeah.
So we've got the wrong person on the list here.
No
so
problem.
if you can state your name and address for the record.
Michael Lafreniere, Settlers Architecture, 951 Ossington. I think this is a pretty simple and straightforward application. There's a lot of precedence in the neighborhood for these kind of FSIs. The FSI will read as a little elevated because the basement is being counted in the FSI, but you'll notice there's no setback variances, and the height variance is one for the dormers on the front and rear elevation. So the overall height of the building fits inside the general envelope. I spoke with planning. Planning doesn't have any concerns about it. We do have the soft landscaping, and that's because there's a shared mutual drive that will remain even though no one uses it because it's too narrow. We're not proposing to change that in any way because that's would require the consent of the neighbors. The owner has discussed it with the neighbors, and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions if you want. I'm not going to keep you here too much longer.
It's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Question from Member Atarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to get an explanation for the third variance, which is the height of the
No problem.
side main.
If you pull up the drawings, you'll see in the front elevation there's a mansard roof. So when you have a mansard roof, you're allowed to have 40% of the width of the mansard roof as windows. There's lots of precedent in the neighborhood and on the street where that third floor goes completely across the front of it. The zoning examiner has written, back up 2 drawings. The zoning examiner has written, or that's the back, so there's a door. If you go back up to that drawing you were just on, you could zoom in there. There's a sliding door off the bed, that one there, we can start with that one. The door to the left is a sliding door that exits from the primary bedroom, and there is a small balcony that's required by the OBC, which is up there, so we need to have that additional width for the bedroom up there. The roof that surrounds it, the U shape there, is tucked back, and that'll be a metal roof, so the actual face of the wall is tucked back from the rear main wall, so it will feel a little smaller, and the same approach was taken on the front. The dormers in the front represent about 65% of the width of the facade, whereas the one in the back is about 75% because you have the window there, but because the corners have been pushed back, the overall massing will feel smaller.
Okay, any other questions from members? There being none, there are no other conditions for this except forestry. That's noted. And no other staff reports. And if there are no other questions, can I get a motion? Motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After listening to the explanations provided by the agent, I feel this is a minor application. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry conditions.
Okay, thank you. Member Kidd with a motion to accept this application subject to forestry, seconded by Member Hunt. Thank you so much. All those in favor? And your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, can we come back? What do you think about like 35 minutes to come back at 2:15 so we could try to finish off the day as quickly as possible? Is that enough time? City staff, is that okay? 2:15, we'll be back. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.